How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Monday Night Racing. The Season 5 playoffs begin tonight. You are watching the Out of the Groove pre-race show, but in about half an hour, cars will be on track. Racing Miatas at the Daytona road course tonight should be a great show. I'm super excited to be a part of the MNR Season 5 playoffs. I've worked with the super talented crew at Podium Esports in the past on projects like the Groovy Hollow iRacing event we did last fall. AE Engine, of course, always doing great work behind the scenes, and the MNR crew, I want to give them a shout out for bringing me on board, letting me be a part of this awesome series. It's an honor to host these 7 Monday Night Racing playoff events. We'll meet some of our playoff drivers in a moment, but first let's look back to last week's regular season finale, Trucks at Michigan. Here's how tonight's playoff grid was settled. Last week, the Monday Night Racing regular season wrapped up at Michigan in the trucks. Early trouble for Raja Caruth in the 13 gets tagged by Nick Olson in the 24, put Nick Olson's championship or playoff hopes in jeopardy early on. The early portion of this race was marred by lots of contact and lots of cautions. Here, the leader, Corey Heim, gets turned into Adam Cabot, another playoff driver. Lots of early trouble for guys in good points positions. Cabot's able to save it, but loses all of his track position. Then later, another stack up heading into turn 3. This time it's the 50 of Gabe Wood. Gary Sexton in the 1 gets into him. That sets off a huge crash. Just a bump draft gone wrong here at Michigan. Anthony Alfredo involved. But once we did get some clean racing, boy was it action-packed. David Shieldhouse leads here, 4 wide for second, 4 wide for third. Looks like Talladega there in the Irish Hills of Michigan. But trouble would once again find one of the race's favorites. Raja Caruth again gets right hooked, ends up and over on his roof. This would end his race and end his chances of trying to make the playoffs. Meanwhile, up front, a great battle here as Brad Perez takes the lead, looking to win and make his way into the playoffs, blocking 3 lanes at once. And there's contact behind him as Presley Sora gets bumped up out of the groove. Sora, with 2 wins on the season, expected to be one of the championship favorites these playoffs. Great racing up front though, 3 wide, 4 wide, very competitive. You see Reed Wilson in the 66 takes the lead here. Behind him, Ron Capps gets hooked up into the outside wall. They come back down and collect Anthony Alfredo, another driver already locked into the playoffs, but boy, no luck at Michigan last week. Ooh, trucks on top of him. Halfway through this 100-lap race, everyone hits pit road to make it on one final stop. The second half of this race would go much smoother, much cleaner. Ryan Vargas leading him to the green. 50 straight laps of green flag racing would cause strategy to come into play. Here comes Shane Van Gisbergen making a move around Presley Sora to take control of this race. And then about halfway through that final fuel run, pit stops beginning under green. There's Ryan Vargas, then the leaders, Van Gisbergen as well as David Shieldhouse on pit road, and they would battle it out neck and neck, door to door here. Very competitive pit stops. Shieldhouse in the 20 actually comes out just ahead of SVG in the 97. These two would have to race their way back through some traffic though with slightly fresher tires. Garrett Smithley in front of Shieldhouse, he gets loose, and that allows Shane Van Gisbergen to take that position away, and the 97 wasn't done there. Again, with slightly better tires, he drives up and takes the lead away with 12 laps to go. Once again in control of this race, but fuel, very much a concern, not only for some of the leaders, but also for many drivers a little further back in the pack trying to hold on to their playoff spots. Looked like SVG was going to run off and hide. Shieldhouse, though, in the 20 made a late race, a last-ditch effort to catch the 97, tracking him down right in his tire tracks on the last lap. Shieldhouse makes that move to the inside, washes up a bit, and Shane Van Gisbergen gets the win in the regular season finale. Now, not eligible for the playoffs, but still a dramatic and exciting finish and great result nonetheless. Awesome stuff. Tonight is going to look very different, racing on the Daytona road course. The playoffs are upon us, 13 drivers eligible for the Season 5 championship, and I got the chance to sit down with each of these drivers earlier today. I got to learn a lot more about them, about their backgrounds, and I want to introduce the playoff field to you guys watching at home, get you a little more familiar with our playoff drivers. Tonight I asked every single one of them who their favorite driver was growing up. And here were some of their responses. Who was your favorite driver growing up?
Mark Martin, hands down. I always knew that he was the one that didn't have a championship, and Jeff Gordon was, in my eyes, it was Jeff Gordon versus Mark Martin.
Jeff Gordon, easy. That's where I got my number from. 24. I liked watching Kyle Busch. It's fun to listen to him on the radio. He'll be running second and say the car is terrible.
My favorite driver growing up was Jeff Gordon. The first race I watched on TV with my dad, he won, Jeff Gordon, and it was when he was driving the Flame car, so I would assume it was 2007, probably like that. That was that iconic paint scheme.
Michael Schumacher. I had a red go-kart, and I was always watching Formula One, watching the Fernando Alonso Schumacher battles back in 2004, 2005, and I hated that blue and yellow car. So it was always about Michael.
Rusty Wallace. I'd never watched NASCAR on TV. I was just there, and I remember just being drawn to the black and yellow 2-car. I don't remember a lot of things from that age, but I do remember, everybody remembers their first race and the sounds and the whole experience was insane. And
my favorite driver growing up was definitely Dale Earnhardt Jr. There's a lot of other guys I've looked up to in the industry, especially as I've gotten more and more involved, but he always stuck out to me just because he had a lot of pressure and really the weight of almost the whole sport on his shoulders for a long time, and did such a great job representing NASCAR, and still now as a retired driver has so much involvement. And that's something that I hope to be able to do alongside with on-track success is have success off the track, but still be involved in the sport in some way for a long time.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Ever since I was 8 years old, was a big Dale Jr. fan. My uncle gave me a PlayStation 1 with NASCAR 99. And at first I wanted nothing to do with it. I just wanted to play my Spyro the Dragon. And then eventually one day I got bored of that and hopped in NASCAR 99, started learning the driver's tracks, and just became obsessed. And once I learned about Dale Earnhardt and that he had a son, I was like, all right. And, so he was definitely my driver all the way till he retired.
It was Jimmy Johnson, and then he won too much, and I didn't like that.
Even you got tired of it at that? Like, even a fan?
Yeah, I didn't like. I like the underdogs, man. The underdogs are way more fun to root for. My grandma was a huge Joe Nemechek fan. My uncle was a huge Jeff Burton fan, so I didn't mind rooting for Jeff.
I have a weird reasoning for this. Tony Stewart was my favorite driver. As soon as he won the championship in 2011, for some reason, 8-year-old me thought, okay, well, that's all I need to root on him for. He's done it now. So I switched favorite drivers, and then it was Keselowski from that point, and then he won the title the next year, and then I've stuck with him all the way through to now.
I've never heard that. Like, I'll root for someone until they win it all, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I've accomplished all there is to accomplish. Move on.
Yeah, that was my 8-year-old mentality.
My dad worked for Kellogg's cereal company growing up, and that was kind of how I got interested in NASCAR, and I became a diehard Terry Labonte fan. For kind of like those last stages of his career. I would cry if Terry Labonte went a lap down as like an 8-year-old. Texas Terry, man, he was what hooked me.
I would say Dylan Kwasniewski. That's just like really? A random out there. When I was about, I would say 10 or 11 years old, I got really invested into the whole NASCAR Next class when they first announced it. And one person I gravitated towards was Dylan Kwasniewski because I raced at All-American Speedway. And when the K&N series would come into town, it was like, this is the big show. And I saw Dylan Kwasniewski and I kind of gravitated towards him. And as he moved into Xfinity and I moved into K&N, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm following his career path and late models and like the whole timing and everything. So I was just a huge fan of Dylan's.
I started watching NASCAR in the mid-90s. My first favorite driver was Ernie Irvin. That was who I first started following. Then Steve Park, then Robbie Gordon, and then Matt Kenseth. Ernie and Steve, share an unfortunate link, with brain injuries, head injuries, through racing, and both of their careers were cut short. And I think they were both brilliant race car drivers that, didn't get enough time doing it because of that. I always had a deep respect for Matt Kenseth. Still think that he's underrated. In a lot of people's minds, they just didn't appreciate what he brought to the sport and how he went about being a professional. I think that's what makes him special.
You'll be hearing from and seeing a lot more of those playoff drivers as these 7 races progress. But tonight, before we go green at Daytona, Monday Night Racing always likes to pick out one specific driver to highlight. So let's show off tonight's featured driver.
He is a multi-time winner this season in Monday Night Racing, one of our own real-life racers in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Our Motorsports. Our own Anthony Alfredo joined us to chat today, and for you've been in NASCAR for a while now, including in the Cup Series, the highest level of the sport. I want to go all the way back, though, to the beginning for you. What was your entrance into motorsports? What did your career look like going up the ladder?
Well, really what sparked my interest in motorsports, particularly NASCAR, was my parents being huge race fans. So nobody in my family raced. My dad and my mom both were really into cars and motorcycles, anything with an engine, really. So that's kind of how I grew up. Went to my first race when I was a kid, the Daytona 500. I would say it really all began, aside from being a race fan in the very beginning, from rental go-karts and iRacing, two of the most accessible things for people. When I actually started racing, I learned that it was a legitimate training tool for me to get practice laps at places I was going to be going, since the actual tracks are scanned and you could feel every bump, every seam. It looks the same. You just develop those visual cues. And from there, it was just climbing the ranks, legend cars, late models. I literally went from iRacing to competing in the Daytona 500, the first race I went to as a fan. I mean, that's just absolutely mind-boggling to think about. I think really puts into perspective how cool and unique the simulation is.
Where did XSET come into the fold for you, and why continue to kind of go, you know what, I want to continue to put in some time and make a priority in iRacing and part of XSET?
Well, like I said, iRacing played a pivotal role in my career and still does to this day, since we don't have much practice and qualifying. That was partnering with Lockdown Racing. I'm a co-owner of that team, where we have drivers in the eNASCAR Road to Pro Series, and the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, which led to my affiliation with XSET Gaming. I'm a content creator and streamer for them, but I also help run their eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series charter. And then I'm spotting Briar LaPrade, one of our lockdown drivers who's driving for Junior Motorsports in the Coke Series.
They're on the right. They're on the right. Stay in the middle. One looking left. One looking left. You're clear. You're clear. Stay left. Stay left. Stay left. Keep rolling left. One on your right.
What is your ultimate goal in the racing and motorsports industry for you, beyond just being that guy on the track?
Honestly, for me, it's to give back to the community and, leave a good impression for young people, aspiring racers, and people just that want to pursue their own dreams. It doesn't have to be racing, but I'm just someone who is a fan of this sport, this industry, and never imagined having the opportunity to do it, let alone at the highest level possible. To be one of 40 in the world is a blessing in itself, and one step closer to that ultimate goal of being a champion someday, as you mentioned. So I just want to prove to people that you can do it if you put your heart and mind and time to something and put in 110% effort every single day, and never give up on your dream.
And my last question for you, Anthony. We all know you as Fast Pasta, but what is your favorite pasta dish?
So, contrary to popular belief, it is not fettuccine alfredo, but actually penne alla vodka. That is my favorite pasta dish. Or I do like rigatoni with some bolognese sauce. That's very good as well, but not fettuccine alfredo. I do like it. It's probably top 5, but I don't know if it's top 3. It definitely doesn't take P1.
Joined live by Anthony Alfredo, playoff driver here, season 5 of Monday Night Racing. Anthony, you're tied for the series lead this year with 2 wins. So what's been the secret to your success so far? And thanks for joining us. We appreciate drivers talking to us right before they have to go race.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. And that's a great question. Honestly, I've missed a lot of races so far this year. I think I only ran 6 of the first 9, which is the bare minimum to be playoff eligible. But of those 6, I did win 2. And I've been highly competitive, leading laps, running up front, contending for wins. So, just seem to have always been competitive in this league, and love racing in it. It's something to look forward to on Mondays, which is why this was all started. And I've been around since the beginning for the most part, and have always had a good time with all the varying car and track combos. And I've been pretty competitive in every one. This is one of the most different ones we have, but I'm looking forward to it. It's first race of the playoffs. There's only 2 races per round this season, so it's going to be critical to have a good night tonight. Hopefully win, so we don't have to worry about it next week. But I'm very confident in the Xfinity cars at Legacy Texas next week. That's a great car and track combo for me. So if this doesn't go perfectly well for me, I know I could get it done next week for sure.
Yeah, next week could be a big one, because this week's a bit of a wild card, racing at the Daytona road course. Is this a race that you're looking forward to, or is it just about surviving and trying to move on to next week?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to points race too much tonight. I really want to enjoy this because I missed this race last season, and it was arguably one of the most exciting ones of the season, at least to watch. So I'm sure it'll be fun from the driver's seat. I want to go out there and enjoy it. I think some of the road ringers will have the upper hand, but I've gotten way more competitive on road courses. Actually, I have a NASCAR Xfinity Series pole this year on a road course in Portland. So hopefully that helps me out tonight. Gives me some confidence for sure. And the draft's huge. So you just got to stay in the lead pack. And it'll be interesting to see what the fuel strategy is. So going to try to find a couple teammates out there to pit with at the very least for sure.
Yeah, you just mentioned racing Xfinity cars on road courses this year. You've actually run a Cup car on the Daytona road course before, but you hinted at it a second ago, the draft coming into play. How do these cars drive differently than what you're used to at road courses?
This is actually one of my favorite road course, or at least roval type road courses, if you will. So I'm excited to run on it for sure. It's a lot of fun. I've run the Daytona 24 on iRacing quite a bit. And I think in this case, these cars are a lot slower. Everything kind of slows down, but it's critical to carry a lot of momentum. They kind of remind me of go-kart racing in a way. So the draft's really big. They push really well. And it's critical because of the lower speeds. The draft is just that much more emphasized in these cars, it seems. So if you're the leader, the guys behind you just get a huge run. So that's definitely not where I want to be coming out of the backstretch chicane, coming to the checkered flag. Going to try to set myself up, to be probably second or third, or maybe even fourth or fifth, because we've seen some wild 4 or 5 wide finishes, battles for the lead coming to the line. So it's going to be critical to put yourself in position, but you got to get that far first.
I love it. It's not often we hear a road course race being talked about the way you talk about a super speedway race. So talked about it a second ago, you have experience in the real life at this track. Do you think there's any sort of advantage that gives you in a race like tonight?
Yeah, probably some. I got some track familiarity, know where some of the bumps and seams and whatnot are, but these cars are very forgiving, which is why I think it's so hectic and chaotic and fun for the viewers. So I'm sure everyone watching is going to enjoy it tonight. I know we will behind the wheel. On my Pro Celerate Miata, I'm unable to stream myself tonight because I'm visiting family this week, but I did build my dad this incredible SimSeats driving simulator last year, or a little over a year ago. So fortunately now when I visit my parents back at home, I've got something to race from. So this is very similar to my rig at home. I'm very comfortable, and I don't expect that to be any issues at all.
I was going to say, if the folks at home can see, you're in maybe a different setup than we're used to, but it still looks great. You look very comfortable there. Well, good luck tonight, Anthony Alfredo. First race of the playoffs, looking for your 3rd win of the season. Already got a pretty nice ratio going. Going to try and improve that tonight. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sweet deal. And as qualifying now is right around the corner, I want to bring in the booth, the guys who are going to be calling this race, doing the play-by-play, the color commentary. Gentlemen, take it away. Great to see you.
Well, Eric, thank you so much. And by the way, great job on that pre-race show, talking to Anthony and some of the other drivers here in our pre-race segment. As, we are just a couple of minutes away from getting this race kicked off. MX5s at the Daytona Road Course. Myself, Blake McCandless, Kenneth Bueno, and Jacob Hitz will be down on pit road here for you tonight. And, Kenneth, we've been talking about it all season long, that you have to execute in these races, especially now that we're in the playoffs. We have 2 races in this round, so being able to figure it out quickly and execute in a race like this is going to be so important for these drivers tonight.
Yeah, execution going to be the name of the game, not only tonight, not only in the first round, but for the rest of the playoffs. Think about it, of course, 2 races in each round, so if you mess up, if you have a poor race in either tonight or the first race of the next round or the first race of the next round after that, you're going to have a lot of work to do in that second race, and you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be where you can be as consistent as possible and at least have a buffer to where you can be a little more comfortable in those elimination races where things get hectic, and we had that elimination-style field just 1 week ago at Michigan International Speedway, so it's only going to be amplified tonight and moving forward through the playoffs. This is the first race also, so take note on drivers trying to put their best foot forward, not only in the round, but for the playoffs. We've seen a lot of guys ride waves of momentum and ride highs and ride lows throughout the season going into this portion of the season, so watch for that. And with this combo, Daytona with the road course and these MX5 cars, it's going to provide for probably the best example of what the playoffs could bring in a first race in the first round.
Well, if you've seen real-life races at this racetrack with this car, you know the type of action it can provide. I know watching these cars at Road America a couple of weeks ago, the same points are emphasized, Jacob. The draft, being able to stay with the lead pack, working with teammates, bump drafting, all of those are key points. Are you hearing anything different, or is that kind of the line of thinking for what you've heard from these drivers down on pit road?
Well, in talking with some guys in pre-race, that was kind of the consensus, is that come to the end of this thing, you don't want to be the leader. You want to be In the bleed pack, you want to be maybe 2nd to 6th, so you can use that draft to your advantage. And we've seen that in the past here, not only on iRacing, but in the real world, that the finishes here can get pretty wild. But the drivers that I talked to, they were focused more on the end of the race and trying to set yourself up almost like we're at a plate track. I mean, technically we are at Daytona, but we're using the road course. You want to set it up like you're at Daytona or at Talladega, and you're drafting in the pack. That's going to be the key for these guys down the stretch. But before they get to that point, you got to worry about fuel. Some drivers talked earlier on in the day. They made some changes, the MNR admins did, to the setup. They cut the fuel load that these guys would have in half. That opens up the door for these guys for more strategy. We saw strategy have a big role in the finish of the race last week. We're going to get a lot more of that here tonight.
Certainly so. Strategy and being able to execute that plan going to be oh so key for tonight. I know we'll bring Eric back in for a moment. I know we were talking a little bit pre-race about some of our picks going into tonight. There's so many names, and at a race like this where I think you have a lot of drivers who are comfortable with this type of car at this type of racetrack, a number of drivers with real-world experience and across every series in NASCAR, the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, you name it. There's likely somebody that has driven a NASCAR stock car on this racetrack. But Eric, if I could bring you back in for just a moment, we'll kind of go through our picks here, and I think fittingly so, the Out of the Groove pre-race show that you hosted. We'll start with you. Who do you think is going to victory lane tonight?
Well, I'm not just saying this because we just talked to him, but Anthony Alfredo, he's my pick tonight. He sounded very confident. I know he's kind of racing away from home, but he still seemed very comfortable in that nice setup there. So I'm betting on Anthony Alfredo getting his 3rd win of the year.
So Anthony Alfredo, he's been oh so strong here in Season 5, looking for his first championship in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. So Anthony Alfredo looking to secure his spot in the round of 10. Well, we're going to go next to our good friend Jacob Hitz, who will be down on pit road. Jacob, who you got tonight?
I'm going with Presley Sora. He won in these cars when we were back in Martinsville to start the season. I talked with him, and he told me that he was the underdog in his mind as far as the playoffs are concerned, even though he has the most points and is tied for the most wins coming into the playoffs. He said the fundamentals of the Miatas from the short tracks like Martinsville, well, they carry right over to the road courses, and that's going to help him out a lot tonight. In the Road to Glory Series last year, he was P2 in qualifying. He was leading early, got the lead early before winding up in a crash later on in the race. I like Presley Sora's chances to punch his ticket to the next round. Give me the 98.
So Presley Sora, and again, those of you who are new to our audience here, Presley Sora, a very good sim racer here on the iRacing platform, going to victory lane tonight and has been doing it multiple times so far this season, or at least Jacob seems to think so. Kenneth, we'll go next to you.
Well, when you go to a road course, Blake, you're going to have to go with a road course driver. So I'm going to pick Stephen Wilson in the 25 tonight. He is a previous winner with the MX-5s back in Season 3 at Lime Rock and also performed well at one of our road course races in the playoffs last season with the Porsche 911s at Red Bull Ring. So I'm going with the 25, Stephen Wilson tonight. He finished 36th last time we were here with the MX-5s at Daytona. So obviously not reflective of how good Wilson is on road courses, but keep an eye out for that 25. I see him very quick in practice, and I figure we're going to see the same in the race tonight.
Looking for a big turnaround tonight would be Stephen Wilson if he were able to go to victory lane. As far as my pick is concerned, funny enough, he just went to 2nd on the practice charts before wrapping up and starting qualifying here in just a couple of moments. Somebody who's been very strong, a former champion here in Monday Night Racing. I'm going to go with Robbie Lyons. Hasn't quite been the season to write home about for this driver, at least here in Season 5. Not going to be contending for your playoffs tonight, but Robbie Lyons, somebody who is very strong, definitely going to be trying to help his teammates or his Grit Esports teammates that are locked into the field, locked into those playoffs. So I could see Robbie Lyons very easily being one of those drivers that we got to keep an eye on going to victory lane and trying to improve on that win total to make it 2 out of 53, or what would be 53 career starts. But before we get things rolling off here from the World Center of Racing, we'll throw it down to Lonnie Klaus with our invocation and John Carlos with the singing of our national anthem.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to participate in this event today. We thank you for the privilege to live in the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We commit this event to you, and may we please you. We'll give you the thanks. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land and of the free and the home of
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
A beautiful evening here at the World Center of Racing as we get set here in just a couple of moments to fire off the engines for the 5th season of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries in the opening night of the 2022 playoffs here at the Daytona Road Course utilizing MX-5s from the iRacing software. It is the Interstate Batteries Challenge at the Daytona Road Course, and we are set to bring you all the action live here on Podium Esports. Blake McCandless, Kenneth Bueno, Jacob Hitz, and Eric Estep will be bringing you all the action tonight from the Daytona International Speedway as we continue to look forward to qualifying wrapping up here in just a couple of minutes. And while we do that, Kenneth, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our race analysis show, exactly what these drivers will be dealing with tonight.
Well, we started the season, Blake, here at this very track, the World Center of Racing, utilizing the oval. But tonight, we're using the road course that's been so famous for the Daytona 24, the Rolex 24 every single year. It's the same combo we're using here with these MX-5s tonight. It is a 3.5 miles, 5.7 kilometer road course with 12 different turns, and of course a lot of different challenges. Look at that infield road course, the International Horseshoe, that turn very treacherous, the kink going to the other horseshoe, the entrance onto the NASCAR portion of the track, and the high 31 degrees of banking, and then of course that very fast bus stop on the back straightaway, which sets up for the last run to the start finish line coming out of NASCAR 3 and 4. We've seen some beautiful finishes here, not only with these MX-5 cars, but with a multitude of other series and motorsports. So this is a perfect track to go racing, a prestigious one at most, and it's going to provide for the best stage that we'll see with these MX-5 cars. Watch for turn 4 in NASCAR. That is going to be the biggest point of conversation if we end up in a race tonight. Daytona, perfect place to do it.
It certainly is, and of course of note, if you've watched any of the NASCAR road course races here, you'll notice the chicane out of turn number 4. We will not be utilizing that tonight. This is the old school, I guess if you want to call it that, road course layout here at the World Center of Racing, so we'll not be utilizing that chicane that is off of turn number 4. These Miatas will be going full speed into turn number 1 after they cross the tri-oval and through the start-finish line. As, well, let's go ahead and take a look at our playoff rundown and the drivers who will be competing tonight to get into the round of 10 in just 2 races time. You can see the top of your screen. Daytona Road Course will be running tonight, and we'll be running a Legacy Texas, so a 2008 scan of the Texas Motor Speedway in the NASCAR Xfinity Series cars will make up the second race, and that is all that we have, Jacob, for this round. 2 races to do it, so you got to execute and you got to do it tonight.
And you get 2 races the rest of the way throughout each of those rounds. Vegas in the trucks and Daytona, bumpy Daytona, 2007 Daytona in the ARCA cars. Then we go to California at Auto Club with the Indy cars, and then Atlanta, the new Atlanta Super Speedway style racetrack with the next gens before ending at Homestead in the trucks. Now, one thing, the points reset now that we're in the playoffs, and it is tight. We've got 5 guys tied for the cut, basically. From Adam Cabot down, they're all tied. Right now, that's the way things look. Fern, Olsen, Stallneck would be on their way out. So you have not a lot of room for error if you're anywhere in this. Presley Sora is only 8 above the cut line. He has 2 wins and won the regular season championship. Alfredo has 2 wins. He's just 4 points above the cut line. It is so crucial for these guys that are in the playoffs to perform at their best every step of the way, because if you don't win and you make a mistake somewhere and it costs you a lot of points, you may be on the outside looking in when we go to Homestead.
And you definitely don't want to be on that outside looking in, and you don't want to put yourself in a situation that in the second race of the round you're already thinking must-win scenario to advance, something that certainly won't be a whole lot of fun if you're one of those drivers that is really scraping on the end. You can see in the top left-hand part of your screen about 50 seconds left in qualifying. You can see on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen Anthony Alfredo a little bit earlier on Twitter getting excited for the running of the first race of this playoff. As he says, first race of the hashtag M&R playoffs tonight. Unable to stream since I'm visiting family, but I'll still be out there wheeling my Pro Seller Miata. Monday Night Racing and at iRacing. So you can see Anthony Alfredo getting ready to go right here. Brett Baldeck, he's not competing in the playoffs tonight, but the driver out of Fox Charlotte, the Mazda, is ready to hit the Daytona International Speedway road course tonight as Brett Baldeck getting ready to roll off here. He has completed his qualifying so far with about 10 seconds left. He is 25th rather, of 26 drivers that have made a time. And Ryan Vargas, another driver that has been in Monday Night Racing for such a long time, getting ready to roll. And time to get saucy. Again, I've never heard of sim racer inspired or gaming hot sauce, but apparently that's what we're having tonight. And of course, if you want your tweet to show up here, make sure you use the hashtag MNR Playoffs on Twitter. And of course, tag us on Podium Esports, and that is at Podium Esports if you want your tweet up here on the screen potentially. As Kenneth, we're going to move forward. Starting lineups here set. Qualifying is complete. You see Stephen Wilson right there on your front row with Adam Cabot.
That's your first row, of course. My pick, the 25, going to start on the pole tonight. Gabe Wood for JD Motor Esports will line up inside of row number 2. Presley Soar on the 98 looking for his 3rd win of the season. He will start outside in P4.
Rolling off from 5th, it looks like it'll be Nick Olson. 6th will go to Will Rogers. Bailey Curry will start in the 7th spot in road number 4. To his outside will be Anthony Alfredo. And by the way, welcome to Bailey Curry as he makes his inaugural Monday Night Racing start in the field tonight. Gary Sexton on the inside of road number 5 will start in 9th. And David Schoedhaus, the brand new Assistant General Manager at Alpha Prime Racing. Congratulations on the new position, David Schoedhaus. He'll start in 10th.
Yeah, great news for Schildhaus. A big congratulations to him. Ryan Vargas has a new sponsor tonight. Of course, as he said, time to get saucy. He's got Kindred Sauce Company on his Mazda MX-5 tonight. We'll see what we can do with the new sponsor. Robbie Lyons out of Seminole, Florida will be to his outside in P number 12. Garrett Smithley in the 15 will round out the inside of row number 7. He'll have Colin Fern, who is deep in the playoff grid, to the outside in P14. DJ Cummings in the 10 will round out your top 15. He'll have James Bickford for the Charlotte Phoenix to his outside in P16. George Balfans Jr. in the 94 out of the Road to Glory series from last season. He starts 17th. League owner Ford Martin for Crypto Autosport will roll off 18th. It'll be 19th for Max Cannon in the 21. And the Traction.GG MX-5 of Justin Malillo will round out your top 20.
Starting in 21st. Crap. Sorry, Blake. Go ahead.
You're good. I was going to say former NASCAR spotter Charlie Brown will start in 21st. 22nd for kicking the tires will be Seth Eggert. 23rd, Mark Rabillis for Crypto Autosport, as well as Matt Stallneck. He'll start in 24th. 25th, they'll go to Brett Baldeck. 26th is Case Collenbach, the final 2 drivers that elected to take a time in qualifying. The rest of the field did not put down a time. Bailey Turner, Stephen Ellis in 27th and 28th, respectively. Now you can see right there Corey Heim inside of row number 15. He won his first Monday Night Racing start, as we'll see the rest of the field. Jacob, any last-minute stories before we get this thing going green?
Well, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but Ford Martin's asleep at the switch. He is parked on the back straightaway. He has not moved. Everybody else has rolled along. He's been given an EOL penalty by Josh Mendoza, our race admin. He's still just chilling on the back straightaway before the chicane. He has not moved from his spot. He was supposed to start 18th. Now he's going to start 31st, but he has to get rolling because, well, the pace car was going to come in, but now we're going to do another lap. So I get to talk about some of the other things that I wanted to hit before we get to the green flag. It involves some of our playoff guys. Talk with David Schildhaus. Of course, he's starting in that 10th spot. He said patience is the key to the game tonight. He said it 3 times, in fact. He also said that the race is going to be decided by that final pit stop that we see because of the strategy. It may start to play out before then, but you're really going to have your ducks in a row by the time you get to that last pit stop toward the end of this race. And he told me that, look, the leader at the chicane on the last lap is a sitting duck. As 2nd through 6th, whoever's in that lead pack, they're going to have a shot to be the winner. It's not going to be the leader coming to the chicane on the last lap. Also talked with Ryan Vargas. As you mentioned, new sponsor with him on the hood of the race car tonight, being Kindred Sauce Company, making their MNR debut. And he told me, look, if I can't win tonight, he's 2 points above the cut line. He's got to maximize the day. The last time we were here in Season 4, he finished 3rd. That's the best out of anybody that was in the playoffs and in the race a season ago. Have to keep an eye on that number 6. By the way, the guy that had the worst finish in this race a season ago that's in the playoffs, Adam Cabot. He finished 19th when we were here a season ago. When I asked him about it, he said that was mostly caused by a crash he had on lap 1 with Rajah Caruth. He thinks that this time he's got top 10 speed, and really, he should be able to contend for the win. Starting second, obviously good signs for the driver of the 17. Blake?
Certainly a good start there if you're Adam Cabot and looking to kind of build up on what you had last season and trying to repeat for a championship here in Season 5. I guess while we have a little bit of an extra pace lap here, Eric, I'll throw it down to you. I believe Ford got rolling eventually is what I'm hearing.
We can only hope. And Jacob, excellent job there on pit road. We've now heard from a couple of drivers that have said, hey, you do not want to be in the lead coming to the checkered. Anthony Alfredo, we talked to live just before we got rolling here, and he was my pick to win tonight. I didn't realize I was picking a fan favorite. I've been monitoring the live chat here on YouTube very, very closely, and we got a ton of Fast Pasta fans watching here tonight. A few other shout-outs, a lot of Stephen Wilson fans. Obviously, he's starting up front. Seems like a pretty good pick, but boy, I think the chat, Alfredo may not be at home racing tonight, but I think he's racing in front of a home crowd, at least here on YouTube.
Well, he has a lot of fans, and I know that his investment, the time that he puts into the iRacing community, I think people out there, the fans of it, the audience, notice that and are willing to return the favor and cheer for the driver out of Connecticut to do very well. He's won a lot of races this year. He's starting in the 8th position. He's in a great spot in that P8 machine, which, I mean, perfect sponsor right there. I mean, he's starting in the 8th spot, so perfect there for Anthony Alfredo. We'll see what he can get done tonight. I wonder, Jacob, just before we get going green, does this extra pace lap affect fuel at all? I mean, we talked about strategy, going an extra lap around. This has to have some type of effect.
It's definitely going to have some effect. It depends on how much these guys decided to save, really, under this pace lap, if it affects them more or less. We're looking maybe at an 8 to 12 lap window for fuel. Obviously, it's a timed race, but you're going to be looking 8 to 12 laps. Before that, it was closer to 15 to 20, but because we changed the fuel size, only 35%, that's going to be an impact, Blake.
Certainly will, as we will work our way into the restart zone. Green flag out in the air. We are set to go for an hour and 10 minutes, 70 minutes of action here at Daytona, and they are already looking 3, 4 wide as they work into turn number 1. Let's see how patient they are, who gets out of it.
And fortunately, they do out of turn 1 most of the field. Almost double, 3 wide, some of them single file, but already a change of hands into the International Horseshoe. Give the lead to your Season 4 champion, Adam Cabot in the 17. We have trouble back in the field. I believe Case Collenbach, James Bickford, the 29, the 84 involved in it. There's a look at Bickford's Charlotte Phoenix Miata stall that he tows it to pit road. So
already taking the tow. Wow, that is shocking.
That's got major implications. He was stuck in the fence over there. Those are 2 playoff drivers that made contact. George Belfans Jr. was the one that made contact with Bickford, 3 wide with Robbie Lyons. Required repairs for Bickford. He's going to have to use his fast repair very early on in this race.
And I got to think, I mean, Bickford's a driver that's had, I mean, if we just call it simply, he's had a lot of beef with some drivers. Is this kind of, we've been hearing a lot of talk in real life when you talk about Ross Chastain. Do you want to get him back at the right time? Is this one of those examples, Kenneth, that maybe you've ruffled up a couple of feathers and this is when it matters when we get to the playoffs? Could that have been a factor?
Well, you know what happens with Ross Chastain. Nobody ends up doing anything really to the driver of the one. But, I mean, in the sim, I think so. I think there could be implication if you've ruffled that many feathers and if you've ticked off so many drivers in the field, somebody's going to get back to you at some point. Obviously, you don't want to intentionally wreck because that's going to give you a penalty, but I think that they're not exactly uncomfortable with racing the 29 as hard as they can. And unfortunately for Bickford, he's going to be stuck on pit road trying to get his damage repair as the field comes across out of turn 4, waiting to lap the 29. They're side by side for the lead already. Will Rogers trying to give a push to the 17 of Adam Cabot. Wilson a push from Sora. And how about Alfredo threading the middle, 3 wide for the lead back to turn 1.
Alfredo just passed about 5 cars in about 2 seconds as he goes to the top spot and will lead lap number 1 here at Daytona. So Fast Pasta wasting no time to try to settle himself and establish himself at the front of the field. As you can see through this first lap, call it about, I'd say about 12 or 13 or so that are latched onto this front pack. Now, it is worth noting we will have a halfway caution, so any spins will not be thrown for a yellow. We'll take at about the 30-minute mark of this race, 70 minutes in, about 30 minutes once we get through this race, we will throw a yellow flag.
And we just had a spin here, Blake, on the front straightaway back in the pack. Corey Hyman, George Bell fans Jr. made contact. Of course, the 94 is in a playoff spot. That's 2 incidents that he's been involved in back here, spinning around in front of the pack. What was left of the pack, at least. You'll see the contact coming toward the start-finish line. That 94 of George Bell fans Jr., a playoff driver. He was 4th coming into tonight. 2 accidents within a lap. You saw another car slap up against the outside wall. Get a check on who that was. Headed down toward turn number 1, trying to avoid the wreck. I believe it was Matt Stalnick that slapped the fence and went around. That's another playoff guy. Remember, he was at the bottom of the barrel coming into the playoff grid. He now sits 23rd, make it 24th.
That's so tough for Bell Fans Jr., who has had such a consistent season, kind of showing up at the right times. Doesn't look like he has too much damage on that machine. And, of course, Kenneth, we do have that fast repair in the back pocket. So if you do suffer a little bit of damage here early on, you can pit, probably take that fast repair, and honestly probably not lose a lap knowing that we have that halfway yellow coming up.
That's definitely true, but at the same time, if you come down pit road for a fast repair, you also don't want to go the whole race thinking, okay, I burned the fast repair, I need to be insanely careful with my car for the rest of the races. They're casually 3 and 4 wide back to turn 1 for second on forward to the race lead as Presley Sora takes it away, going back to the first corner, but you also just don't want to go into the rest of the race knowing that you have to be as tender as possible with this Miata. Also noted, this car on the iRacing platform has the new damage model, so it is more prone to damage than a lot of the other cars on the service, so you have to take note of that if you're one of the ones taking off the fast repair tonight, as it looks like Stephen Wilson goes back underneath Presley Sora for the lead coming out of the International Horseshoe. But that is huge, Blake. A lot of playoff drivers, 3 of them already in deep trouble in the opening 3 laps.
You know, I got to say, I think that's the first time I've heard the phrase casually 4 wide used in a broadcast, but I love it. And here it is casual. Yeah, I was about to say 3 and 4 wide, that's very doable in these cars at this track.
And you see it in real life, too. It's not like we're just exaggerating it in the sim. If you watch any of the Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup races in real life, you will see this. You'll see these guys going 3, 4 wide for the lead, for second, and for basically every position possible because they're so underpowered. And like Anthony Alfredo mentioned in our pre-race show, so much draft is involved with these cars that you basically can't get away from each other. And we'll talk about that a lot, especially in that last stretch going into the checkered flag. You're going to have to think about that a lot, and that's why we're seeing these bonsai moves for the lead and for positions in the mid-pack. Here's a push from Alfredo to Sora coming down the back straightaway, entering the bus stop. Wilson, of course, no help, so Sora having no problem going back to the lead, but I figure we're seeing some of the same patrons that did well last season already put their foot forward here in the opening couple of laps here as you take a look at the Bank Social number 25 now riding in 3rd.
I think these cars can teach you a lot. And Eric, I'll bring you in on this one. I know just before Parker Kligerman went on to win at Mid-Ohio, what was he doing the previous weekend? He was running an MX-5 at Road America. Perhaps taught him a thing or two before going to victory lane at Mid-Ohio.
Absolutely, yeah. No, these cars so far have been really fun to watch as you see them coming down the front straightaway again. 3, 4 wide, I did love that phrase, casually 4 wide. There's nothing casual about being side by side going into a heavy braking zone. Somehow, so far though, turn 1 has avoided being a serious trouble spot, Blake.
It has his Sora, gets a little bit of contact there in turn one, but innocently just runs off the road. Nothing too bad to speak of right there. Just, again, some casual contact up here at the front of the field. Nothing to really speak of. You can lose your mirror here as well, as we haven't seen too much of that up front, but that is potential that you hit somebody in the wrong spot. You can lose that mirror with this damage model, and of course you don't want that to happen. As you can see, up front, still a long line of cars that have latched onto this front pack. It's actually grown a little bit, about 15 or so that are still in contention, still keeping up with your race leader. As here's somebody that both in the real and virtual world knows how to get around these road courses. That is Will Rogers, who is riding directly behind Stephen Wilson in the third spot.
And he finished into the top 5, Blake, last season in this exact combo. The only problem was he was leading the race coming out of turn 4 on the white flag going to the checker. That was the biggest mistake that Rogers had, but his car was fast all night long. So again, no surprise that we're seeing tonight's field be consisted of a lot of the heavy hitters that were usually there in that last season event, especially if you look now even deep within the top 5. Ryan Vargas in there as well. And the 25 of Wilson, Colin Fern, who was very aggressive in that race, also to follow. So, I mean, not surprising that these guys are up here as well. I mean, this is, again, back to the point I made in the pre-race show, putting your best foot forward. You want nothing more than a decent finish, nothing more than a solid race, because, again, it's only coming down to 2 races for the playoffs. So you don't want to be in that deep hole, having to dig yourself out by the time you go into Legacy Texas with the Xfinity Series cars. And we're seeing a lot of these guys up front not being afraid to extend their hand out for the lead, because obviously they want to lead laps and they want to be in the best position possible to be the points leaders, or to have at least a gap going into the next race. Here comes Rogers inside for second. Alfredo with the lead coming back to turn 1. It's continuing to get chippy, and again, they're 3 wide. Ryan Vargas in the middle.
And again, Alfredo had a lead of about 10 car lengths, but he lost it all on that front straightaway. That run out of the bus stop on the back straightaway all the way through to turn 1 here is just so long that Alfredo had a huge lead, but you just cannot hold it in these cars. They're so low powered, and that draft is so important that anybody who gets out, I think Stephen Wilson, as far as pure raw speed or pace in these cars, I think he's probably the strongest one that we have in this field. He sat on your pole and was really, really fast, but again, so much of this racing going to come down to how you manage your situation. You can see a little bit of a smirk right there out of David Shieldhouse. Number 20, TobyChristie.com machine, looking to get back into the Championship 4 here in Season 4.
And he had a top 3 finish at Michigan just 1 week ago. And obviously when I talked to him, he was very happy about being the points leader, quote unquote, the first driver in without a win in the season. And he kind of scrubbed it off and say, it's all right that I didn't get a win in the regular season, but he knows how competitive he can be. I mean, he was obviously Championship 4 driver last season. He can do it all over again here in season number 5. So we'll see what Shieldhouse can do riding along in P11 as they fan out for a little bit coming out of NASCAR Turn 2. And again, they are still competing for the lead, 3 wide. Colin Fern holding it going into the bus stop. And for the moment, they'll go side by side for second. Also want to take note on Stephen Wilson.
Oh, spin! Bailey Curry is around at the end of the bus stop. He also brings another one with him. Parked on the top side, that is Ryan Vargas, who goes for a spill just outside of the bus stop. And again, that was mainly a case. Everybody's packed up. Curry was carrying a ton of speed. And that's some JD Motorsports teammate beef right there between Ryan Vargas and Bailey Curry. So definitely don't want to hit your teammates, Eric.
Absolutely not. Let's see what happened on the replay here. It's hard to miss that bright orange machine Bailey Curry is running here tonight. But I know he and Vargas both running up near the top 5. Curry, looks like a stack up right there. Curry was the highest running non-playoff driver until this accident. Vargas, unfortunately, a playoff driver, caught up in it.
Oh, that is tough. Jacob, you hearing anything from the radios on these drivers?
Well, they're in the same voice channel, so of course they're talking to each other now, and Bailey Curry apologized for running over Vargas, and, you know, like I mentioned, Vargas said that he wanted to maximize the amount of points he could get. Obviously, trouble for him being drop-kicked back to 20th after starting up in the 11th position and gaining a lot of spots, putting him well up inside the top 5. I know he was going back and forth a little bit with Colin Fern. Fern told Vargas, well, that's the second time you've driven it in that deep into the chicane. This was maybe 2-3 laps ago, and Vargas came over the radio and apologized, saying he wasn't trying to drive it in too deep. He just thought that Fern was lifting early. Of course, kind of working for Fern now. He runs in second. Tough break for Vargas, though. He said a lot of words we can't repeat on television. But again, back in P20 for the driver of the 6.
And tough break for Ryan Vargas is, again, able to gather it up. Doesn't really have any damage that I can tell on the number 6 machine, and it's pretty much the same case for Bailey Curry in the 0.5. So not too bad, I think, for either one of those drivers. Just going to lose a lot of track position in the process. As you can see, the field starting to thin out a little bit at the front, single file for the time being. Colin Fern right now your leader. There's Anthony Alfredo in the 23 car, trying to see if he's going to go around. And I think he's just going to provide some drafting help. No, he'll go high and block Will Rogers.
Alfredo will stay up high, but the draft not working up till now. Finally, out of turn 4, the push from the 55 is enough to send Alfredo to the lead. How about Sora going 3 wide inside using the apron? Sora has been one of the only drivers so far to use that trial apron. Going back to turn 1, Adam Cabot's going to do the same, the Season 4 champion. Going hard on the brakes back to turn 1. And luckily, nobody getting into contact. It is now thinned out. You are right, Blake, in this category, because we're now basically from 14 cars deep in that first pack to only 9 right now. Gabe Wood being the last one in. So it is definitely gotten crazy, especially with that stack of Sora, Bailey Curry, and playoff driver Ryan Vargas. What I was about to mention before that crash in the bus stop, Stefan Wilson, 25, obviously did well in our last road course race back in Season 4, the Porsche 911 RSRs at Red Bull Ring, and he's got maybe something up his sleeve at the Daytona road course. He raced the Rolex 24 this year in his debut event, or debut Rolex 24 start with the Hardpoint Porsche racing team, so watch out for the 25. My pick tonight, there may be a little bit biased here, but Wilson very quick at this track, and knowing the fact that he raced in real life earlier this January, he's probably going to have a little more to watch out for. Like Alfredo, they know this track very well, so they can utilize it to its maximum potential for speed.
I was watching that Daytona 24, another driver that made his debut in that race, James Davison. I was a spotter for the NASCAR Pro Invitational Series. He ran in GTD and got on the podium, so it was good to watch for both Wilson and Davison right there as we work off of NASCAR turn number 2. Another battle for the lead, Jacob, although we did have some activity on pit road here.
There we go. Yeah, it was contact. George Balfans Jr. again, this time going into the second horseshoe. Drove it in a little too deep. Charlie Brown broke a little early, and Charlie Brown got sent into the tires. After Charlie got back going again, he just slapped the driver's side with the tires, kept on rolling. He said, well, thanks, George. I didn't need that mirror. Broke the driver's side mirror off. He came to pit road, took 4 tires and fuel, fixed the mirror, and now he's around again in the same spot and into the Armco barrier. Just took out a couple of cones. He's still up against the Armco. I'm not sure what Charlie Brown's doing. He's up against the wall, flooring it. He's lost his mind. I really don't know what happened. Now he's just towed it back to pit road.
Tell you what, he had a couple of cones stuck beneath his car. He got loose in the he got loose in the wrong spot. Oh, we have no spin.
In turn 1, yeah, problems there. I think
and Rogers. Yep. And they're both around right in turn 1. Guys are coming at him full speed. Rogers is up against that inside wall. He moved. I'm not sure if that's where you want to go, but he's got to wait for everybody to go by so he can stick it in gear. And now he tows it. No, he just blinked out. Now he's going.
A lot going on all around this Daytona International Speedway. We'll see if we can't get a second look right here. This is this entire pack working off of NASCAR turn 4, so we'll get to see the entire run right here and how it developed. Will Rogers getting the worst end of that spin. I thought it was Colin Fern there for a moment, but I guess similar cars right there. You can see Rogers riding in line about that 5th position. Oh, it was a little contact further up the road. Sora gets sent way wide. And was there contact there, or did Rogers just get a little loose?
I think he just overdrove the corner. Blake just got a little bit too deep in there and slightly tapped the 25 of Wilson after Wilson had gotten to the rear end of Presley Sora. He was on board with Schildhouse, and as Schildhouse was trying to slow down behind DJ Cummings, he gets hit from behind by the 50 of Gabe Wood. So I think tonight, Blake, already in the opening 8 laps, in the opening minutes of this race, it's become a playoff nightmare. We have basically about roughly half our playoff field in some sort of trouble, in some sort of problem tonight. It's been unbelievable.
I feel like this resembles something that we see every single year in real life, Eric. Whenever we watch the NASCAR playoffs, it always seems like that first race, it is always plagued by mistakes. And, of course, you don't want to make it. You're in a round where almost all of the drivers are advancing, so it really comes down to execution. But just like what we see on the real side of things, we're seeing it both here in the virtual world, too. A lot of mistakes out of these playoff drivers.
Yeah, this is a challenging racetrack, of course, but also the nerves. It is the first playoff race. You know, drivers may say every race they approach it the same, but there's a little something extra on the line here at first race of round number 1. And I've been monitoring the chat. When Charlie Brown had his little issue there up against the wall, we had some good Charlie Brown references in the chat. Noah Coleman did his best ugh straight out of the comics. I could read it perfectly in the voice, I guess, I made for Charlie Brown reading the comics all those years. So good stuff in the chat. Viewers are enjoying it. A lot of great close racing up front so far, Blake.
And that's going to continue throughout the night. As you can look at the timer on your screen, we're about, call it, maybe 10 minutes or so from that caution that'll come out once we're 30 minutes into the race. So if my math serves me well, 70 minus 30 equals 40. So it'll be about 12, just about 12 more minutes or so before we get that halfway yellow. But Jacob, I don't know if these guys can make it all the way to that caution on fuel. What are you hearing?
They're definitely, they shouldn't be able to make it on fuel to that caution. Let me put it that way. But David Shieldhouse, after he got turned, Gabe Wood got into the back of him with that checkup there in turn 1. He said that, hey, look, we're going to have to change strategy here. He came over the radio and said, yeah, we're changing strategy now after that spin. Him and I, in our conversation, we never talked strategy. I may have talked strategy with a couple of others, see what they were playing. David was not one that I talked to. I know he was a big advocate for limiting the fuel cells in these things, going from 80% to 35%. Got that accomplished and never really asked about what his plans were, other than the last pit stop is the one that matters the most. We'll see when he decides to pull the trigger to come to pit road. About 6 minutes left until we hit that 5-minute window where pit road will be closed.
Oh, man, they are racing hard up the front here. You can see DJ Cummings utilizing every inch of this racetrack, 3 wide, with the bottom lane strapped onto the apron. We'll see if this works out into turn 1.
And they've been very sketchy, Blake, over the past couple laps. Sora, again, utilizing the outside. He's going to run off, and he'll get passed by Anthony Alfredo here, merging up the track into the little chicane and into the famous International Horseshoe. Fern holding on to the lead. But what I'm noticing is that the 2 non-playoff competitors in this main pack, DJ Cummings, Stefan Wilson, they're putting a foothold onto the playoff battle right now. They've almost wrecked a couple of times, and some of them have been connections between the playoff drivers getting into each other, but the 2 non-playoff guys have been working at it. Obviously, they want to win this race just for what it is, to win a race in season number 5, but they're putting a foot into what's been a playoff battle up at the front. You take a look at the point standings on the right side of your screen. That contact with the 55 Rogers and his spin with Shieldhouse in turn 1 sends him 3 points behind the cut line, behind the 94 of George Balfans Jr., who also has had some issues here so far in the opening laps of this race. So it just continues to grow crazier and crazier, and the front pack continues to thin out. Now it's basically 8 cars, or rather lower than that. I think just 6 cars in that main pack in front of Nick Olsen, who has moved into 7.
Well, and I think we're hearing that a lot of drivers were kind of in that window right now, so wouldn't be shocked to see some drivers start to make their way to pit road. 3 wide for the lead. DJ Cummings goes to the top spot all the way on the apron. They'll sort it out here as they go into the backstretch chicane. But Jacob, I think pit road about to be a very busy place this time around.
Had a couple tests in the waters that last time by. Justin Melillo came down. Matt Stallneck came down. 4 tires and fuel for those 2 guys. David Shieldhouse says he's going to pull the trigger and come in this time, as will Bailey Turner. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of folks in this lead pack, and especially in this secondary pack that's not as closely knit as the leaders come off for now. And this is going to be the time where they start to come onto pit road. Looks like Colin Fern, he's going to be the first one to jump ship. Nick Olsen is going to stay out. Fernal comes in, Stephen Wilson, Gary Sexton, Gabe Wood, Robbie Lyons. They'll all come onto pit road. It seems like 4 tires and fuel is the call. We may see some tire strategy later on if these guys feel like it, but they need as much fuel as they can. It takes a long time for them to fuel the car up and get tires on it. It's not like NASCAR pit crews where you get it in 14 seconds and you're done. Roughly 25 seconds in the box is what these guys are going to be dealing with. As right now, Colin Fern, the left sides are up on his machine. The left side's starting to go up on a lot of others. David Schildhaus, he's already down and away. Just 9 seconds in the box for the 20. Fuel only. So a little bit of strategy coming from the guy that was involved in that crash in turn 1. He's going to come out in front of all those guys that just pitted. No tires, though, just gas for the 20 of David Schildhaus.
So a lot of different strategies here, and Kenneth, I know we talk about in-laps and out-laps. I think you got to really manage if you're coming off of pit road. It was particularly true in the 24 hours of Daytona this year. Cold tires, really tough to manage as soon as you get off pit road.
Yeah, cold tires is a monster, and especially in these cars. I know Anthony Alfredo said that these cars, these MX-5s, which is usually the first step in road racing on the iRacing platform if you want to get up that ladder respectively, it is very forgiving, so it is not the worst thing in the world to drive on cold tires. But when it is on cold tires, it is very loose. It snaps out of nowhere coming out of the corners, especially in the high momentum parts of the track. You think of coming out of the horseshoe, going into that kink, into the second horseshoe, which leads over to NASCAR turns 1 and 2. That part of the track, especially also the bus stop, that part gets very treacherous and it gets very slippery when you're on those cold tires. It takes a little bit for those tires to warm up respectively, so you have to keep that in mind. Schildhaus and company, I think the ones that only took fuel, they're not going to have to worry about that at all. But for all the guys taking new rubber, especially here in this main pack, which it looks like, according to Jacob Hitz, they are going to hit pit road. They're also going to have to manage cold tires. Jacob, here come the leaders for pit road this time.
Here they come, and Anthony Alfredo on the horn telling Presley Sora, hey, I'll go this way, you go that way, and we won't run into each other trying to come to pit road. The entire pack comes onto pit road. One car kind of shot the gap and went up the middle, picked up a couple of spots. It was Adam Cabot in that 17 that kind of broke a little late. That allowed him to pick a couple of spots up going down onto pit road. No black flags. Actually, Bailey Turner has a black flag. Believe that was on exit. Right now, everybody enters the box. Right sides go up on your race leader, Presley Sora. Same for DJ Cummings. Garrett Smithley, fuel only. Anthony Alfredo, fuel only. They're down and away. Meanwhile, they're already going up on the left sides for Presley Sora. Adam Cabot still sitting in the box. He's going to take at least 2 tires. He's still sitting in the box. They're not taking the lefts as Presley Sora, he's about to be down and away. There he goes. Nick Olson's out. DJ Cummings is out. And I believe for Adam Cabot, he was just waiting on everybody else so he didn't get lost in the draft as they come off. This is one of the toughest pit exits, I think, on the planet. You see some of the best come down through here and wipe the heck out. It is a very treacherous pit exit as we're in the final 10 seconds of pit road being open. Michael Massey has to hurry. He's coming to pit road. He gets there with 5 seconds to spare, and everybody now has come on to pit road, and pit road is closed until the caution flag to end this first almost half of the race.
So interesting that we see a lot of drivers up front that elect to not take tires. But Kenneth, I'm somebody that thinks that you may like the track position at a track like this right now, but I also have to think you're getting a caution here in just a couple of minutes. You're going to get bunched back up. I feel like maybe you would want tires now so that maybe you couldn't take them later. I don't know. I'm not sure if the sacrifice to get track position when you know everybody's going to be bunched back up at a certain point, if that's really worth it. I think I like taking tires here versus not taking tires.
Yeah, the loss isn't going to be very big at all, especially with the racing we saw in that opening stint before everybody split up and headed down pit road this time before it closed. When you get bunched up and when we get that inevitable restart at halfway, 30 minutes in, everybody's going to be back in the game. You're going to have these big packs come up once again. So whether you're 1st or 15th or even further back throughout the field, it's not going to matter that much. So tires is probably the call here. It's not going to be too big to lose a couple of spots when you know you can probably gain them back going into the next stint of the race. But from what I'm thinking here, especially fuel-wise, this is not only a chance to be up in the front and lead some laps and maybe hang by yourself where the whole field is basically just draft heavy, you also want to set up for that pivotal final stop in that last stint. We're thinking about that as well, and Jacob will touch on that once we get to that point. That's going to be the biggest stop of the race that maybe decides who wins this thing or not. So I think this first stop before pit road closes is that setup, and that's why we're seeing so many different calls, including guys not taking tires.
Very interesting to see how this all shakes out as the cycle is complete. You see Anthony Alfredo, and how about Garrett Smithley, who has really driven his way through this field, started back in 13th and has worked his way up to second. No shock to see Garrett Smithley up here at the front of the field, not competing to get into the playoffs, but certainly so competing for a win for pride's sake and to try to represent his sponsors as Garrett Smithley trying to chase down Anthony Alfredo here at the Daytona road course. I want to remind you that Interstate Batteries is built to top industry standards. Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than 150,000 dealers around the world, as well as 200 all Battery Center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. So you can see Alfredo Smithley, your top two, they hold a monstrous lead over David Schildhouse in third, and it looks like Jacob here and Ryan Vargas may have come down pit road a second time.
Yeah, he came down onto pit road a second time, and I'm trying to figure out right now exactly what the strategy call was. It's possible that, it's possible that he just sped on pit road, trying to scroll through as best I can and find any sort of penalty for the driver of the six, because remember, he came onto pit road and took fuel only. He came back in the next lap and took 4 tires. So my guess is that Vargas may have gotten a penalty on pit exit and decided, well, heck with it. I'll just come back in and I'll take my lumps and I'll just take 4 tires and maybe consider staying out when this thing gets back rolling. But for right now, the investigative reporting continues, and when I can figure something out on Ryan Vargas, I will let you know, because right now I'm coming up with a whole lot of nothing. Guys?
Well, there's an important battle taking place right now. We are 1 minute away from the caution being thrown. Case Collenbach is right in front of your leaders. He's 29th. He's roughly 2 minutes behind the race leader, but you could see them in the background right there. If they catch the draft, Case could go a lap down. Now, mind you, this matters for Case. He would be the lucky dog when the caution comes out, so he would get waved around. But Charlie Brown right now in 30th is 1 lap down. He's currently the lucky dog, so he is hoping like crazy that Case Collenbach can hold on here for the next, 30-some-odd seconds, that he's not going to go a lap down.
But I have a feeling here that obviously 2 is greater than 1, and while Garrett Smithley isn't necessarily on the tail of Alfredo, that draft alone is going to make them much faster. And obviously they're the leaders. They're setting some of the fastest laps out of the racetrack. Comparative to a guy like Case Collenbach, it was roughly a 2-second difference on lap time. Collenbach setting a 2:12, and your leader Alfredo setting a 2:10. Now the caution comes out. So your leader, Alfredo, will bring him back to the stripe and pick up the pace car. This is the caution in midway, which everybody was hoping for. Everybody was knowing that it was going to happen. So everybody's going to be back up together, and the strategy is going to reset. Blake, by the time we head for that last stage for the checker, which means it's going to get a lot more fun here tonight from Daytona.
It certainly is. A lot more strategies to play out. We know that these drivers, even after this, cannot make it on one stop. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how this all shakes out. We continue our coverage here from the Daytona International Speedway and the Interstate Batteries Challenge. We will be right back after these messages.
This is an Interstate Battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Mas. Look, we're going to run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
Back with you here from the World Center of Racing as we continue our coverage of Season 5 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. I'm Blake McCandless alongside Kenneth Bueno in the broadcast booth, Jacob Hitz down on pit road, as well as Eric Eastep, your Out of the Groove pre-race show host. And guys, I could say it's been a lot of fun so far, finally getting the field caught up here and about to catch up on these kind of mid-yellow pit stops, but a lot of action so far here in this one.
Yeah, there's been a lot of action to behold here at Daytona, especially in the playoff field, guys. I don't know if I was expecting a lot of the playoff competitors to have trouble, but I think the trouble has made it more exciting, especially now that we have this restart, and a lot of them are going to have that hope that they're back in this game once everybody packs in behind the pace car and we'll go for that restart set for turn 1. But it's been crazy to see the playoff point stretch change over time, and of course with the problems that these guys have had, with the pit stops that they've had as well, how the cut line is looking as you see it on the right side of your screen. It's only going to continue to change before we end this race, especially with the fact that you can easily gain and lose spots with these Miatas, no doubt.
Well, Jacob, it's about to be a busy place, I would imagine, on pit road. Looks like your leader, Anthony Alfredo, going to make the dive, and the rest of the field, most of the rest of the field is going to join him.
Yep. Presley Sora is going to make the call to stay out, as will DJ Cummings. Checked up with Ryan Vargas. What happened with him? Well, he just pitted a second time. He told me that he thought the strategy would be a little bit different. Sounds like he may consider taking no tires, because the second time around, he did take tires. When he pitted the first time, he didn't take tires, just fuel only. Everybody in their box right now. Garrett Smithley, he's got the right sides up. So does David Schildhouse. So he's going to take tires on this pit stop. He didn't the first time around. Colin Fern is down and away. Just 13.9 seconds on pit road. He will win the race off pit road. Gabe Wood is gone. Stephen Wilson, Gary Sexton, they're all gone. About 14 seconds in the box for all of those guys. Looks like the call for Ryan Vargas, one of our playoff drivers. Just fuel only for Colin Fern. That's also the call. Looks like it's split pretty even. The first half dozen, maybe close to 10 guys taking fuel only on this pit stop. The back half taking 4 tires on pit road. That's a really interesting split, considering we only had 4 guys that took fuel only. It was Alfredo, Smithley, Schildhouse, and Vargas. Of course, Vargas pitted that second time and took 4 tires, but everybody else, an interesting split here. I thought maybe those that took tires under green would go for the track position here and not take tires and only go fuel to try and extend it, get the track position, and maybe things turn out later on in this race. Apparently that's not the case, because you've got playoff guys, Adam Cabot, Nick Olson, Anthony Alfredo, David Schildhouse. Those two at least make sense since they took fuel only, but Cabot and Olson, they took 4 tires on their last stop. They took 4 tires on this stop. They only have 2 sets left on pit road for them to use the rest of the way. They really should only have to pit once, but maybe there's that big of a tire advantage, I don't think there will be, that they decide to pit a second time. They could use up all 4 sets, especially if they spin out or something. Really risky decision by these guys.
I can't wait to see how this plays out. A lot of different strategy going on throughout the field. But, of course, Monday Night Racing is very proud to announce a partnership with Next Level Racing. Founded in 2009, Next Level Racing is the world's leading simulation brand, revolutionizing simulation racing with its industry-leading product range. You can visit nextlevelracing.com for more information. And, again, a great partnership forming right here between Monday Night Racing and Next Level Racing. We are so glad to have them take Monday Night Racing and bring it to a global scale. Also, to remind you, you can follow at Monday Night Racing on TikTok for a more candid and fun way to experience Monday Night Racing. You can get highlights, interactive clips, and occasionally, if you want to watch this, I don't know why you would, but Ford Martin dancing. Those are the things that you can see on our TikTok. Again, that's at Monday Night Racing on TikTok. If you want to subject yourself to that, you're more than welcome to do so.
I better see, maybe not Ford, but anyone in the field doing the Renegade on TikTok. That would be a highlight of my life.
See, I don't have TikTok, and it's kind of like one of those things. It's kind of like coffee. I know I would like coffee, so that's why I don't drink it. And I feel like TikTok's the same way. I don't want to get TikTok because I know I would spend so much time on it. But luckily, we don't have to spend any more time under the yellow flag as Presley Sora and a couple more drivers that stayed out, as Jacob well chronicled, going to lead us through the field. Single file restart as they get through to turn one. We'll see how desperate these drivers get in the back of the field on the fresh tires.
Luckily, it looks like into turn one, the separation is too big for any huge dive bomb moves. They are side by side throughout the mid-pack. Stefan Wilson underneath there. That was a attempted pass there on Corey Heim for P7. Some other drivers going side by side as well. But for the most part, your leaders who have stayed out, they're staying rather content up front. Another send there by Corey Heim into the International Horseshoe. But we're clean going to the kink there. Still side by side around the latter half of the top 10. But Sora running away with P1.
Sora, Cummings, Kinnan has found their way into the top three, and just trying to keep an eye on what's happening further back in the pack. It looks like so far so good as they work through towards the end of the road course, the infield section of this road course. It doesn't look like there's been any trouble to speak of. One car is just in front of this lead pack. You can see on your screen kind of well in front of your race leader, Presley Sora. That is Charlie Brown, who is currently on the lead lap, but without a caution to potentially save him. May not be too much longer before he's kind of swallowed up by everybody drafting behind him.
Yeah, no doubt he's going to be swallowed here by the entire field, knowing that they're all drafting and setting faster laps, that Brown is basically all by himself on the racetrack. Here comes DJ Cummings on the outside. A quick move. Sora is not going to have any resistance against the 10. So DJ Cummings, another new race leader entering the bus stop. Max Kennan holding strong in third. Looks like Rogers and Fern are starting to catch up as well. What I'm noticing is that the guys who did take fresh tires on the last stop, they're starting to gain a couple of spots this time. Adam Cabot has been blazing laps so far. Looks like Alfredo's following in the same footsteps. Nick Olson has been a little hectic to start, but nonetheless, he's trying to pick up spots as well. We'll keep an eye on them as they move throughout the field, but Cummings going to lead off with turn 4, and Presley Sora maybe will look for the move. No, it'll be Max Kennan in the 21, help from the 55, so Kennan will look for the lead back to turn 1.
Interesting note here, I don't think there's a single driver in the field, or at least that's what we were hearing per race control. There is not a single driver in the field that doesn't have an incident point in this race, whether it's a contact. Oh, Will Rogers well wide and into the back of, I believe that was Max Kennan. Yes, it was, into turn number 1. They keep it going straight. But pretty much, yeah, no person has a 0x in this race. So if you're unfamiliar with iRacing, you get a certain amount of points if you run off track, if you make contact with another car. And Eric, it's been that type of race. Not one driver on the track right now is exempt or free of incident.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised this restart, I say that as soon as the 21 gets a huge shot right there, but this restart has been as clean as it's been, because just in that first half, I think we counted, 6 or 7 playoff drivers who, not just a bump here or there, but had suffered major setbacks, rather on track or not, and now with strategy coming into play, I'm really curious to see how those guys who took 4 fresh tires, how they fare here these next few laps. Looks like Adam Cabot may have finally broken up into the top 10.
It looks like he finally has. It's been a long way to get there for Adam Cabot after this restart. some drivers that took some tires looking to keep their track position. As you can look up front and see kind of a two-car tandem going on to try and run down your race leaders. And even Kenneth, a strategy that, you know, sometimes in oval races, you can, it's almost an IndyCar thing, kind of leapfrogging each other, giving draft to the car behind, and just kind of leapfrogging each other is a way to get you both to go faster.
Yeah, that's a big portion of this type of racing as you ride on board on the rear end of Presley Sora's Miata, but that's big, yeah. Using draft as somewhat of a manipulative factor when you're trying to make passes, or especially if you're trying to get teammates in the game as well. That's also a big thing as Cabot was split at 3 wide. That's in the middle of Gary Sexton. That is Ryan Vargas in the 6 on the bottom. So Cabot still making his march to the front after taking some 4 fresh tires on pit road. Rogers also going to the bottom here underneath Colin Fern and Corey Heim, who now sits as the biggest mover tonight after starting 29th on the starting grid. Cabot in the middle 3 wide as you ride on board with Gary Sexton, and Heim goes a little bit off in turn 1, so does Colin Fern, but they will keep themselves alive. And I think now, Blake, we turn back to our point about track position not being important, because everybody is back in here around the mid-pack. There is nowhere to escape and no margin for error now that you're in this huge group.
Well, yeah, there hasn't really been a significant incident that it has either caused a crash or caused some drivers to check up and lose that lead draft, as it is oh so close contact with Corey Heim in the 25 machine. Oh man, that is tough racing right there, but it looks like they're able to sort it out for the time being. Man, that was almost bad between Stephen Wilson and Corey Heim. Works out for Heim, and a little bit of a shot here from Stephen Wilson back to Corey Heim. So a little bit of Rubbings racing here in the road course side of things as well. One car spun. That is Gabe Wood at the exit of the road course section.
And Wood around all by himself, and it seems as though he has no damage, so he will be able to pick it up, although he's going to have a track position non-existent. He was in the middle of this huge battle. There's Bailey Curry on the rear side. That's the orange and green Miata. He was around the mid portion of the group there. Stephen Wilson giving the hit to Heim that we saw earlier, but it was contact with Alfredo. Both of them got into each other. Alfredo looked like came down a little bit and hit checked the 50.
Oh, Corey Heim in a big wreck here at the exit of the bus stop. It is Corey Heim and Stephen Wilson. They didn't agree with a lot of how they were racing each other, and it just came to blows in the middle of the bus stop as Stephen Wilson looked like he kind of tracked out Heim. Heim didn't appreciate it. He gassed it up and made sure that he got back into the 25 car.
And that was also, Blake, right in front of playoff driver Ryan Vargas in the 6, who barely got through, went outside of Corey Heim. You take a look at the slam to the Heim machine, and then he comes right back at the racetrack. Look at Vargas split the middle, bam, right in the middle, and gets by, fortunately without any damage. Wilson and Heim going at it, and again, I talked about the 2 non-playoff drivers becoming a factor in the lead pack earlier before our first round of pit stops. It is happening all over again. Wilson in a Heim, Heim back up the track, and Vargas having a brown pants moment in the middle of all of it.
You know, all things considered, I know that was more than likely, I would say, a little retaliation, but, you know, not any heavy damage. Luckily, nobody came by at full speed and hit the side of those cars. That really would have caused something. As you can see, Ryan Vargas right there kind of leading that second pack of cars who are trying to still chase down your race leader. It's about the top 5 that have latched on to DJ Cummings, who runs in the first spot. Sora, Max Kinnon, Will Rogers. You have Adam Cabot that's into the fold as well. So that's about the top 5 that are working towards NASCAR Turn 1 at the moment. And then Anthony Alfredo, Ryan Vargas kind of leading that second pack that are trying to catch them. Now, there's been a lot of debate back here in the pack. Why are we racing so hard? We need to go and chase down your front runners. But obviously that's easier said than done.
Oh yeah, of course, and you want to have a position, and again, like you mentioned with the draft and trying to get teammates and other people you like working with together, I think we've seen a lot of that, and the miscommunication has led them to lose a lot of time. Fortunately now, for the most part, they have simmered things through, although Anthony Alfredo has some pressure here from Bailey Curry, and Curry's going to make the move swimmingly for P6. Now that they're all single file, I think this would definitely help, especially with draft and especially with the fact that these cars, it can be easy to push on the rear bumpers, so you have to watch out for that as well. I think they've got it sorted out, and now that we're heading into what is our final pit stop, or potentially our final pit stop of tonight's race, it's going to mean a lot.
Well, speaking of pit stops, Jacob, what do you got down there?
Well, so the top 4 or so, it shuffled a little bit now, but DJ Cummings, Will Rogers, not Adam Cabot, Presley Sora, and Max Kennan, those 4, remember, stayed out under the caution flag as they're 3 wide for the lead going into 1. Those guys are going to have to pit relatively soon in the next 2 to 3 laps. So
Alfredo's on pit road.
Yeah, Anthony Alfredo, he's making the call a little bit early. He's bringing guys with him. David Schildhouse and Garrett Smithley. They are all teammates in a voice chat down below us, so they are working together, the 3 of them deciding to make the call. They are all taking fuel only, and they're down and away. Gabe Wood, who had that spin earlier after bouncing off Alfredo, he is down on pit road. George Belfans Jr. apparently has had some contact once again, but still, with these guys up here at the front, Cabot is good, your race leader. Cummings, Sora, Rogers, and Kennan all have to pit in the next 2 laps. They should be able to make it to the end from this point. So now you've got Adam Cabot, who's going to have almost a 3-second lead over second place, eventual second place, which will be Nick Olson. These guys still have to pit, but the leader is getting away because of these guys that have yet to pit. That's why those guys further in the back wanted to get in line and get moving. Like a Colin Fern back in 9th. He was very animated over the radio trying to get guys to stop messing around and just stay single file and try and catch these leaders.
Well, and I think one thing you're going to see as a theme here, Kenneth, is it's almost like a super speedway. If you pit by yourself and you don't have any draft when you exit pit road, you're going to lose time. And because the draft is so important right here, I think that's why you're seeing groups come in, and particularly early here, you're getting at the point now that, you know, if somehow we were to throw a caution, it is possible if we have a situation that warrants a caution that it would come out right now. That would be to the benefit of Schildhouse, Smithley, and Alfredo, who would eventually cycle through to the lead, assuming that they can make it to the end from this point forward.
Yeah, no doubt they would stay out here if a caution randomly came out in the final 20 minutes of this race. Obviously, it doesn't look to be the case, although we've seen some single-car incidents. As Jacob mentioned, George Balfans Jr. went around in the International Horseshoe. We just had Corey Heim go around into the bus stop, so second time that Heim has trouble there after the incident with Wilson. So, I mean, yeah, the draft obviously is going to mean huge numbers for these guys here, and now that they're going to have to make that final pit stop, they're going to want to come in clusters. They don't want to be alone, because I think that's basically why you're seeing so much time being gained on guys that are going by themselves. I had mentioned earlier that Case Collenbach, he was about to be a lap down. The leaders were approaching, and even with 2 cars, they were setting laps 2 seconds faster than Collenbach. Obviously, raw pace has a difference in that, but there is some difference in those lap times that is draft only on the NASCAR 1 and 2 section and on the NASCAR 3 and 4 section coming back to the tri-oval. So got to think about that as well, as here comes Rogers to the inside for the lead underneath Adam Cabot. This is exiting the infield road course, going to NASCAR 1 and 2, and these guys should be on the mark to come to pit road rather soon, apart from that 17, who's done a nice job moving his way up to the front.
You can see them going side by side. That's exactly what Nick Olson wants to see. You can see on the left side of your screen about 3.5 seconds back of the race lead. He wants them to be side by side. He wants them to try and battle it out here, but they're being very smart about when they go side by side. You can see Presley Sora. This gives Olson a little bit of draft, even about 3.5 seconds behind it. It's barely something, but it is something, which is better than nothing for Nick Olson to try and latch on to this lead group. And if everybody in this second group can work together, I mean, you'll have be an 11-car battle at the front of the field. So you're hoping at the front, if you're Olson, if you're Max Kennan, Bailey Curry, that they're trying to race hard up here.
They want to race as hard as possible, and I think they're going to do their best that they can before they head down pit road. Adam Cabot takes it 4 wide, but Rogers says never mind in this battle, so he's going to pit road. But interesting call here, Blake. He goes all by himself. Jacob, anything on the 55?
Well, he's going to make the call here and decide to pit now and take the advantage of the tires now. Justin Melillo will also join that 55, so the 53 will come down onto pit road. So Will Rogers in his box for the final time. He will not take tires, fuel only for this 55, so he is going to ride on these tires the rest of the way. As they're on board with Colin Fern, a lot of activity in this second pack right now for Will Rogers. Just a gas and go pit stop. He is in the box for a long time now, 24 seconds, trying to make sure he's got all the fuel in the world inside that thing. He lets Melillo go so he gets the draft. He leaves pit road, and Corey Heim will drop in right behind him. He sat on pit road and waited for that 55 to go so he could drop in line behind. So he'll have a nice little pack when he gets back onto the racetrack, guys.
Will he? Melillo comes off of pit road. Rogers is behind. So if he, as long as you talk about pit cycles right there, you can see that battle between Nick Olson and Ryan Vargas. But back here with that pit cycle, you have Alfredo, Smithley, and Shieldhouse. They run 22nd through 24th right now. They have broken away from Will Rogers. So Rogers not going to be able to get into their draft for the time being. That is huge because Rogers, that's why you don't want to pit by yourself. You don't have draft to help you, as we still see some great action up here.
And they almost right, by the way, going into the bus stop. Vargas, Curry, and company got very close to about wrecking there with Nick Olson and Max Kennan in it as well. Multiple playoff drivers running for the Season 5 title. But yes, you're right. That action there and that switch over to Rogers being basically behind this group is going to cost them dramatically, as I think Alfredo might have had some connection issues. Oh, never mind. He's back in the session. So it looks like to be no big problems there for the 23. Just blinked out for a moment. But Rogers being on the back foot here, especially with the fact that he's also not behind the 53 of Melillo, that's going to be huge. And it's going to be huge on Rogers' expense, as here comes Adam Cabot into pit road for what could be the final time, or maybe the penultimate time this evening.
Not the only one. Kennan is in. Adam Cabot is in. Gary Sexton is in. Another playoff driver. Bailey Turner also makes his way onto pit road. Everybody pulls into the box. There you see the Gary Sexton machine. Going to be fuel only for every single one of these race cars. Now, if they get off pit road and get rolling, they should be good as far as staying together and staying in a pack. But again, they're sitting in the boxes for such a long time, making sure they get every ounce of fuel they can. Kennan is gone. Sexton is gone. Cabot is gone. They are all now rolling, including Bailey Turner. He was a little late getting out of the box, but he does get there. Those guys will roll away down pit road, and they're going to make it to the end on fuel. Again, nobody has taken tires yet out of these guys that have already pitted.
A lot going on right there is Nick Olson. You ride on board with him. Currently scored in 5th. Again, this is in the midst of all of these cycles, and you can watch as they make their way onto the speedway when they shift, and really you just kind of get a little bit of time to relax as soon as you get up on the high banking, whether you want to make some moves. This is the time to do it, as we are now under 16 minutes remaining of this 70-minute Interstate Batteries Challenge, round number 1 of the Season 5 Monday Night Racing presented by Interstate Batteries Pro Series Playoffs. It'll be at Texas next time out, Legacy, Texas, to complete round number 1. So you get this opportunity, you get Legacy, Texas, or a 2008 scan of it in the NASCAR Xfinity cars, and that is it for the round of 13. We cut them down and we move it to the round of 10. We'll come around and see out of turn number 4, out of NASCAR turn number 4 rather, if anybody's going to make their way on a pit road. Looks like a lot of drivers, Jacob, ducking beneath that apron, and certainly so. Presley Sora is making his way in. DJ Cummings, they're the only 2.
Yeah, just those top 2. Remember, these were the guys that stayed out under the caution flag. So these guys knew that they would have to pit very, very soon. Everybody else, they can still make it a couple of laps. So Sora and DJ Cummings, the only 2 out of the lead pack that are going to bite the bullet and come onto pit road. Sora in the box, going to be fuel only for that 98. Going back to DJ Cummings, going to be fuel only for that eNASCAR machine as well. They still sit in the box on pit road. Got to make sure they get everything in it. DJ Cummings, he's going to be down and away very shortly. Maybe still waiting. He's now gone. Sora is still in the box. He's now going to pull away. So those 2 that decided to stay out under the caution flag, they got that track position. Remember what David Schoenhaus told me earlier. It's the last pit stop that matters the most. These guys come out right with Will Rogers, Gary Sexton, Max Kennan. So they are going to be with these guys, or within striking distance of these guys, when they get back up to full speed. That's going to be where the battle for the eventual lead comes from for these 2.
Well, either that or it's going to be this group that has formed a couple of seconds in front of them. Again, that group, it is currently led by Adam Cabot, Anthony Alfredo, David Schoenhaus, Garrett Smithley. They are right now kind of running through and about to exit off of the infield portion. That is I guess you want to call it the battle for the lead out of everybody who cycled through. We still have a number of drivers who have pitted, but they are 2 to 3 seconds back of this pack that Adam Cabot is running in. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make up that time, if they can have that strength in numbers, or if this is really going to be a 4 or 5 horse race. I think that just goes to show you, Kenneth, how important pitting with help is. As you can see Justin Melillo right there, he's at the back end of this lead pack. He's currently hanging on. You can see right in front of him there Garrett Smithley and David Schoenhaus. You saw Anthony Alfredo there for just a moment as well. They are trying their best to make up time on the race leaders that are running about 2 seconds slower. So they are making up time on everybody who stayed out. They were once about 43 seconds back. They're now about 36 seconds back.
One, the loneliest number, and it's Nick Olson that's on pit road right now. Sorry, Kenneth. He was the only guy in that lead pack that made the jump onto pit road. A very quick pit stop. Just 6.8 seconds in the box for Nick Olson, going very aggressive with the fuel strategy. Just 12 minutes left in this race. That means they're going to be doing about 6 more laps around the racetrack before we get to the end of this deal. Olson down and away. He's going to have the track position, but does he have the ability to save enough fuel if he is short? Not confident that 24 can make it the entire way on fuel with how short he was in the box. Everybody else has been doing 20 seconds or more. Olson makes a call for strategy, just 6 seconds, and he's down and away.
Well, and Eric, I wonder if we're in a situation here. You can remember the Daytona 500 in 2021. Denny Hamlin, basically, he had such a good pit cycle that it almost hurt him. He was out front. He was on his own. He didn't have the draft. I think we might be looking at the same situation for Nick Olson. He almost had such a good pit cycle that he's going to have no help with him.
Yeah, it's been really interesting watching certain drivers sort of almost wait for tandem drafting help at the exit of pit road. We'll see how this works out for Olson. I'm watching Garrett Smithley, David Schoenhaus, Anthony Alfredo, Adam Cabot, that whole group of drivers who took 4 tires during the halfway break, pit for fuel recently, and now they're all trying to draft their way back up towards the front. I'm really watching them. I feel like that's the winning strategy, but still a lot more to go. A lot of guys yet to make their final stop, and we're nearing only 10 minutes to go.
Well, it's not going to be too many more drivers as we're hearing more calls over the radio. Colin Fern, Bailey Curry, plenty more. You can see about all of the top 6, Stalnick, Ellis, Vargas, Wilson, all making their way down to pit road, getting down to pit road speed, and this is it. This is the money stop, Jacob.
The money stop, no doubt about it. I heard Nick Olson come over the radio and say something to the effect of, I didn't fill it up fully. Which, yeah, you were only in the box for 7 seconds. Brett Baldeck, he's going to come in this time. Nick Olson, he's coming back in. Nick Olson, some major playoff implications. He has to pit for a second time off cycle with everybody else. One car is already down and away off of pit road. Matt Stalnick is rolling. Bickford is now rolling. Vargas is gone. Colin Fern is gone. It's Stephen Ellis that left before everybody. He leapfrogged a number of drivers. He's now 3rd, only in the box for 10 seconds. Not sure he's going to get enough fuel in that car with a 10-second stop, but it's at least going to be better than what happened with Nick Olson. As for Nick Olson, check on him really quick. Still on pit road. He has dropped back to 26.
He had a black flag.
Oh, he sped coming onto pit road yet. Nick Olson is going to be in a must-win situation when we go to Texas next week in order to make it out of this first round of the playoffs.
Executing, this is the pressure of the playoffs. You have to be able to get it done at a certain point, and unfortunately for Nick Olson, his back is going to be up against the wall when we go out to the older scan of the Texas Motor Speedway next Monday night. Out front, in this cycle, at least as far as that is concerned, it looks like Adam Cabot and the bunch, Colin Fern, is trying his best to hang on to the back of Justin Melillo. I don't think he's going to be able to catch him, though. You can see how far up the road Justin Melillo is. That may be just out of reach for Colin Fern to chase him down and to get in that draft.
And the thing is here as well, Blake, he's got Rogers and company behind. There's the 55 of Rogers in 10th. Ryan Vargas, Corey Heim, who's a lap car, by the way, is in this mix as well, and they're significantly catching up. Presley Sora's in this too, as well as Gary Sexton in this number 1 machine. So they're going to try and catch up to Fern, and my biggest concern for Fern here is if he gets leapfrogged by everybody there and they don't give him an ounce of sympathy, being all by himself at the tail end of what's going to be this lead pack. Seth Eggert, Steve Alfont, the 57 and the 11. They are in, as well as Charlie Brown in the 58. Obviously, Brown a lap down here, or actually going to get back on the lead lap here, but no effect for the lead. Eggert and Alfont in, so that leaves Ellis staying out. And Garrett Smithy and company going to try to chase around as he take another look at Vargas and this gang of drivers. Rogers, Sora, Heim, Sexton, almost about 4 wide back to turn 1.
A lot of great racing going on here. Again, this is for about the 10th position, right around where Will Rogers is running. Corey Heim, he's a lap down, and Sora is going to get spun in turn 1. Another car goes with him. Presley Sora, a playoff driver, not going to help his bid at all.
That was Vargas.
Yeah, it was the Ryan Vargas that also spun along with them. So a long night gets even longer for Ryan Vargas as Presley Sora. Big playoff implications. He's able to get going. Might still be able to catch to the end of this pack. We'll take another look at it.
We'll see here, that's Corey Heim, by the way, who is 1 lap down on the racetrack, racing these guys like if it was 4th position. Heim goes down low, 3 wide, and they stay clean up until right here. Sora weaves it down to arc into turn 1, gets into Vargas. Vargas goes for a spin, and what that did, Blake, was lose Sora and Vargas spots to James Bickford. Remember, he spun on the opening lap of this race and had to work on the back foot since the very start. Now he's ahead of these guys. Here's a look on board from Gary Sexton. The spins by both Vargas and Sora send him by. There's Bickford just behind him in the 29. So the points continue to shuffle as Bickford aims to mount a huge comeback to keep himself alive once we get to Texas.
Again, only 6.5 minutes left here in the Interstate Batteries Challenge at the Daytona Road Course. And boy, is it shaping up to be a good one here. Out of all of this cycle, it's looking like Adam Cabot is going to cycle through to be your race leader. You have Anthony Alfredo in contention. Don't believe that Stephen Ellis has come down and pit just yet. So Ellis, rather. Sorry about that there. Looks like he still has to pit. Not going to be able to. Or wait, he did. He did pit.
He did. He came out just with these guys.
Yeah, he only was in the box for 10 seconds. He did not come over the radio and say, hey, that was a mistake or anything. So I believe he might be able to make it all the way. It was at least later when he made that shorter pit stop compared to Nick Olson. Want to update, by the way, Presley Sora furious over the radio. He wants admin to take a look at that crash, apply any not points penalties, but incident points that may be necessary. And Ryan Vargas, who was the other guy in the crash, says, hey, look, that cost me points too. But Presley Sora said, hey, I had a perfect day going. I'm really upset about this right now. And maybe that's fair for Presley Sora, sitting in 21st position right now. And there you see the point line. 3-way tie. Matt Stallneck is back in 15th. Vargas is in 16th. Presley Sora is in 20th. And it's gridlock for the cut line going into the last. Now, we have 5 minutes left, but that can still change. But it's going to be close next week.
Well, you got to think, too, yeah, a 3-way tie. And, I mean, if we're that close, you're looking into your best finishing race in the round that may come down to a 3-way tiebreaker. And, you know, not to mention, you still have some drivers that are barely hanging on. You have Gary Sexton, 3 points ahead. He has the opportunity to make up a couple of spots. See the number 29 machine of James Bickford. Going to be a little bit tougher for him, but he is still trying to do everything he can. The fact that he's been able to get back up to 13th has been quite remarkable. But up front here, you have Adam Cabot, David Schildhouse and Anthony Alfredo, who have the opportunity to lock themselves into the next round if they can finish things off here and get a win.
And what would be
trouble? Kennon's around in the chicane, and James Bickford. There was contact, I believe. Bailey Curry and 2 playoff drivers crash going into the chicane. Are you kidding me? More playoff implications. And now Kennan and George Bell fans Jr. about made contact as Kennan was trying to get back on the racetrack and almost came up into that 94. There's the contact, curring into the back of Kennan, who then gets into Bickford. 2 guys again in the playoffs wind up in trouble.
And not only that, it was the contact from Curry. We talked about these cars, you can bump draft pretty well, but guess what? If you hit them just in the wrong spot, it upsets that car. That's exactly what happened here. Big block by Stephen Ellis, and Ellis is going to get turned.
Ellis gets turned going into the last horseshoe before entering NASCAR 1 and 2. Cabot sent it way too deep, and Ellis tried to shut the door. And it works to the deficit of the 46, who was trying to become the biggest mover after starting 28th tonight. Look on board with Ellis. That was Schildhouse over driving turn 1. And actually, no, this is entering the International Horseshoe, so never mind on the second one. But right there, contact, a slam onto the 46, and around he went. And for Ellis, guys, that would have been the best stop if he had stayed in the lead. 10.1 seconds, good on fuel to the end in the last 2 or so minutes. And then he gets hit by Cabot and falls back all the way to P18.
Believe it'll be 2 laps to go. Or when we get back to the stripe, it'll be 2 laps to go. You can see the timer on your screen will run out during the next lap. Jacob, what do you got?
Adam Cabot was the one that made the contact with Stephen Ellis. Cabot apologized, and then they all realized up at the front of the field, Stephen Ellis was on the lead lap. That was for the lead. Those guys thought that the 46 was a lap down. Cabot came over and said, well, I'm definitely sorry now. If I knew you were on the lead lap, I maybe would have tried to pull out of that move a little bit more. But because it was a lapper, a late move, Cabot thought, yeah, if you're lapped down, that's going to be fair racing. So Adam Cabot now back on his heels a little bit after that move, thinking he was racing a lap car. Instead, that was for the race lead. Here comes Schildhouse.
David Schildhouse getting help from Anthony Alfredo, 2 playoff drivers trying to pass another. They'll approach the stripe. It'll be dead on, 1.5 minutes left. Schildhouse, Alfredo, Cabot, your top 3.
They chase for turn 1. Alfredo looking to the bottom, but not enough of a braking zone to outmatch Schildhouse there. And now I have to wonder if race control is looking at the incident between Cabot and Ellis. They haven't said anything yet. Josh Mendoza hasn't made any call, but if Cabot does get a penalty, that would add on to what's been an abysmal night for most of the playoff field. Cabot trying to dive deep into the International Horseshoe again on Anthony Alfredo. It is still 4 cars for this lead pack, but don't look now. Rogers 5th, Colin Fern in P6, Justin Malillo 7th, all with a lap car. Corey Heim in the group as well. They may catch up before this thing is all over.
I was about to say, Kenneth, they made up 2 seconds that last lap, and with the timer running out now and how hard they're racing, you may be able to have somebody like Will Rogers, Colin Fern work into the mix as well. You can see the distance. It has shrunk down as they work onto the NASCAR course. Schildhouse still holding your lead, Anthony Alfredo, but don't forget Will Rogers, Colin Fern. They want their chance to try and lock into the playoffs as well. They have caught this lead pack.
And again, think about what Schildhouse and Alfredo were talking about, that they didn't want to be the front drivers in P1, P2, or even basically there by the time this race is over. Now they're here in the final waning seconds of this Interstate Batteries Challenge. And how does Adam Cabot and Garrett Smith respond? They'll go 3 wide. Cabot all the way to the bottom, going to the bus stop. Schildhouse will back out. Alfredo will stay with it, but Cabot gets back to the race lead coming into NASCAR 3 and 4.
And it looks like they're going to come to the checker this time, so this is going to be the last lap. David Schildhouse with a run on Adam Cabot. Here comes Anthony Alfredo with a run as well through NASCAR 3 and 4. Anthony Alfredo to the outside. Cabot tries to block. Give the momentum to the 23. Here comes David Schildhouse on the bottom with a huge push from Garrett Smithley. David Schildhouse on the bottom, going to be shoved by Garrett Smithley, and to the checkered flag, David David Schildhouse is going to win and lock his way into the round of 10.
Unbelievable. And I think they waited for that moment, Blake, for Cabot to make that 3-wide move. And Schildhouse basically said, I'll let you have it, but I'm going to take it right back coming out of turn 4 in the NASCAR portion of the track, and that's exactly what he does. Schildhouse gets his long-awaited first win of Season 5 and becomes the 4th different winner in the last 4 races.
David Schildhouse, it has been such a tumultuous Season 5 for him. Won multiple races last year, and you can see the elation on his face as he tries to make it back to the Championship 4 and get on that stage. He wants to be on that stage when we go to Charlotte, hopefully yet again. David Schildhouse, and by the way, you got to give a nod to Garrett Smithley. Without Smithley committing to that 20 car, there is no way that David wins that race.
Remember, teammates, those two, your top 3. All teammates, Schildhouse, Smithley, and Alfredo, all in the same voice chat. They pulled the same strategy. They pitted 10 laps before this final lap. They were the first guys to pit. They're the first 3 on the racetrack. How about it?
And also that, Smithley's not a playoff driver, so he basically had incentive to do whatever he wanted to help his teammates get to victory lane, and he did so with Schildhouse and played a huge role. We talked about it, Blake, using draft as a manipulation factor to get to the front, to make passes in the lead pack, and that is textbook. A move right there. Smithley giving the best bump possible, and Schildhouse getting to the win for the first time this season.
Last season when we ran this race, Josh Bilicki led 1 lap, and the most important one to win at this exact same combo, the MX-5s at Daytona. And David Schildhouse, I don't know how many laps he led tonight. It may have just been the most important one as David Schildhouse locks his way, gets some playoff points as well for the next round, and gives himself a chance to go and compete for this championship. You can see the playoff standings, the updated standings on the right-hand side of your screen. Not a night to write home about for George Belfans Jr. Matt Stolneck was involved in an incident late in the race. Nick Olson fell all the way back. He was the last car in the lead lap. So those are the 3 drivers on the outside looking in as we head to Texas.
Unfortunately, that's not going to be a huge gap, 7 and 8 points, although I think we do have word that Olsen may not be able to make Texas next week, so he may be officially out of the round of 13. We'll take a look at your full field results. Obviously unofficial, but it is going to be official for the front. David Schildhouse, his first win in Season 5. And remember, he's on his route to get back to the Championship 4 and beat the Charlotte Esports Hub for the Bob Jenkins Trophy that he lost earlier this February. And he's got a great ride of momentum going into Texas and for the rest of the playoffs.
It is Schildhouse, your top runner. Smithley brings it home in 2nd. Anthony Alfredo in 3rd. Adam Cabot finishes up in the 4th spot. 5th went to Will Rogers. Finishing up in 6th was Colin Fern. Justin Malillo, a solid run for that 53 Traction Camp in 7th. DJ Cummings in 8th, representing NASCAR, and I think his boss, or at least one of his bosses, I'm sure, was out there in the chat. Ryan Vargas in 9th, and Bailey Curry rounds out your top 10.
We'll look through 11th on back. My pick tonight, Stefan Wilson could not pick things up after starting on pole. The strategy puts him 11th at the end of this one. Ford Martin, a nice comeback after starting 18th and basically being stalled on the back straightaway when we were going for our initial pace lap to go green. So a nice finish for Ford Martin nonetheless. Presley Sora, contact near the end of the race. He falls to 13th. Gary Sexton, I think, had a solid, uneventful night here from Daytona. It's basically all he could ask for going into Texas next week. He finishes 14th. Cabot Esports lines up the top 15 with Bailey Turner in the 5 car. Didn't talk too much about him, but he did a solid job as well. Seth Eggert lines up 16th. It'll be 17th for the 21 of Max Kennan, who was basically up and down all race long. Steve Alfont, one of the last ones to pit in the latter half of tonight's race. He finishes 18th. It'll be 19th for one of the hometown drivers tonight, Robbie Lyons in the 2, and James Bickford, who tried to mount a comeback to the front of the field after crashing on the opening lap. He rounds out your top 20, Jacob.
21st, Gabe Wood. Remember, he pitted the same lap as Shieldhouse, Smithley, and Alfredo. He got involved in a couple of incidents, though, and dropped back to 21st. George Belfans Jr., one of our playoff contenders, finishes in 22nd, even though he was, I believe, 4 points, make it 3 points above the cut line coming in. He's going to need some help. Moving on next week at Texas. Mark Billis finishes 23rd. Brett Baldeck comes home 24th. Matt Stolnick finishes in 25th. He had contact there toward the end of this deal. Same thing with Nick Olson. Remember, he didn't get enough fuel in the car, and he's going to need a lot of help if he can even make it next week. And that is make the race, not make the playoffs. Everybody else a lap down or more. Corey Heim, 27th. Case Kallenbach in 28th. Charlie Brown in 29th. Stephen Ellis, remember, he was leading before he got turned. He finishes 30th, 2 laps down, and Michael Massey wins the DoorDash award, finishing 31st. 2 single car crashes for him. And that wraps up our field of 31 tonight from the Daytona Road Course. Blake, let's talk with some winners.
Let's do just that as we catch up with your winner tonight, David Shieldhouse. David, just off the heels of some exciting news earlier last week, it being announced that you will be one of the new assistant general managers at Alpha Prime Racing. You get the win tonight. Hey, is it a good week to be David Shieldhouse?
Good week, good month, good year since I showed up here in Charlotte, man. I'm telling you. I feel so incredibly blessed for the opportunity to join Tommy Joe Martins and the whole Alpha Prime Racing team. For him to believe in me and want me to be in that role to help that race team is huge. And now to come out here to Monday Night Racing, kick off the playoffs with a win with the greatest strategy I've ever concocted. And a huge shout out, before I say anything else, to Anthony Alfredo and Garrett Smithley for believing in me, believing in the strategy. Especially big shout out to Garrett for giving me the push. They're coming to the checkers. They believed in the strategy. We spent 2 hours working on this thing, Blake. And it worked. It worked to a beauty. We all ran out of gas right after the checker flag right here. That was insane. Have you ever?
Well, it worked out perfectly, especially after you had some early issues, a little bit of a spin earlier on in that race. And I know we have a lot of new viewers out there tonight. You actually spotted Anthony Alfredo when he won his pole, so it seemed like the communication was open, but, going to be a little bit of tension now that you passed him on the last lap for the win?
Coming to I told him, I said, we're coming to the white flag here. It's just the 4 of us. 3 of us versus Adam Cabot. Let's not, insert word here, this up. And, one of us has to win this thing. So we all just sort of understood the assignment, dispatch Cabot, and deal with it amongst the 3 of us. Going down the backstretch there into the chicane, Anthony was telling me Cabot's going to make the move to the inside. So you saw what I did. I backed out of it, let them go, set up for the run out. I said, Anthony, you'll get the run. You got to figure it out. But knowing I had Garrett behind me, I knew it was in the right position to win. 3rd place was really the optimal spot to be in if you had somebody behind you to push. But I couldn't ask for 2 better guys to work with. I love Anthony. I love Garrett. I've spotted for both of them. And I really, we're like the colleague racing of Monday Night Racing here tonight. It wasn't a super speedway. Yes, we were at a super speedway, but it was road course racing. But damn it, we executed that thing to a T. It was a thing of beauty, man.
All right, so you get a win to start the playoffs. Can you say, at least, do you want to say that you're a favorite now to go and chase this championship and get back to the championship floor?
You're damn right I'm a favorite. Come on. I know I didn't win a race in the regular season, but I didn't go anywhere. I've been hanging around. So that's third, second, first. Last 4 finishes. Come on, man. You tell me. Who's driving better in Monday Night Racing right now than me? The Xyloware cars are tuned up. The number 20 team's excited. Big shout out to TobyChristie.com, Next Level Racing for all their support. AdvancedGG, SRDSetups.com. The Charlotte Phoenix and everybody at Twitch.tv/Shieldhouse. The children are going nuts here tonight, Blake. Nuts! And the driver's pretty damn happy, too. I'm going to enjoy not stressing a damn thing next week in Texas. I'll tell you that. Looking forward to going down to the Charlotte Esports Hub to do that live event. That's the perfect scenario, man. I don't have to worry about that race. I can have fun, maybe mess with my competitors a little bit. But damn it, we're into the next round. Come and get you some rest of the field. I'll be waiting.
All right, so a very confident David Shieldhouse will work his way into Texas next week. Is Shieldhouse your victor here tonight? Kenneth, you've caught up with our second place runner tonight, Garrett Smithley.
Indeed so. Shieldhouse is the winner, but if it wasn't for that instrumental push by Garrett Smithley, it probably would have been all for naught. Garrett, a second place finish here tonight, and you alongside Schildhouse and Alfredo, the trio on that strategy after Schildhouse went around in turn one. Walk us through, I guess I would call it the trail of warriors in the mid portion of this race to get to the front on this strategy.
Yeah, that was a crazy race. I honestly, I feel like that me, Shieldhouse, and Alfredo all won that race. NASCAR Fan 99 in my chat in the lean stream said that we're like the colleague of MNR. So that was so fun. David texted me earlier today, actually only about an hour before the race started, or hour and a half before the race started. He said, "Hey, I got a strategy. You want to come in on it?" I said, "Sure." I haven't done any practice. And sure enough, he big brained it, made it happen. Glad that he was the one to get the victory, though, because that he was the brainchild of that whole deal. But no, partway through the race, Shieldhouse actually got turned, and we didn't really know how we were gonna play out with the strategy since he got turned. And we said, you know what, let's do our strategy. Let's do what we planned for. And then almost ran out of gas one time. And then during our burnouts, we did run out of gas. So we timed it perfect. Good thing he's an accountant and good at numbers, because I had no idea what we were doing. I had no idea why it worked, but it worked. And man, that was such a fun race.
And so you get the second place finish alongside, I guess you said it, the colleague of Monday Night Racing. And you in this group, I mean, you're in the middle. It's a very interesting position because you, going into this race and going into these playoffs, you're not part of the 13 that are running for the championship. So you're just kind of hanging around here. How has it been being a non-playoff driver in the midst of this playoff battle between Schildhouse and Alfredo, who I guess we can call the two titans right now of the playoff field coming out of Daytona? How important was it to be that third factor and to be that driver that makes a difference in those two that are running for the title this year?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I kind of played into my head, just knowing that these guys are running for a championship. I ran for a championship a couple seasons ago, and definitely didn't want anybody that was outside the championship deal to kind of affect anything. But this season for me has been like the worst M&R season really since I started. So I didn't really have much high hopes going into the playoffs, just looking for wins and things like that. But I think I've only talked to you guys one or two times this year, so I'm just glad that it played out the way it played out. And to your point, I definitely don't want to be a guy outside of the playoff deal affecting any of these guys going for a playoff. So I'm glad it played out the way it went. I will say, and I was just talking to Alfredo about this, coming to the line, we kind of got stuck together. I'm not really sure what happened. I don't know if there was a glitch or whatever, but I tried to wiggle my way off of Shieldhouse's bumper to try to get up there, because I didn't want to just push him to the win. I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely wanted to win. I'm going for trophies, but for some reason I got kind of sandwiched with him, stuck glued. Maybe there was some flex seal going on. I'm not really sure what the deal was, but I guess maybe that was the race, the iRacing god saying, "Hey, this was David's idea. David's gonna win this race." So, like I said, glad it planned out. Miata's at Daytona is so much fun. Our trophy tractor Miata was just a blast to run. And again, thanks to Ford and all the guys behind the scenes to make this happen. And I guess we'll see you guys next week.
And you touched on that. And finally, at least we have the reason there, because I saw the brake lights flash just a little bit on your Miata coming to the trial, and I was like, is he trying to brake here a little bit? But now we have the reasoning behind that. I guess you guys just got stuck nose to tail. And you said you're trophy hunting. You're obviously looking for some wins, and no doubt there are a lot of opportunities to do just that before the season is over. Any chance we'll see you at any other tracks moving forward, and your thoughts about Xfinity with the Texas combo and all the other combos moving to Homestead?
Yeah, I plan on running the rest of the season unless I have some type of real world commitment that I have to do. But yeah, I plan on running the rest of them. The final few races of this season, there's a lot of races that I feel pretty confident about. Felt really, really good a few weeks ago. I can't even remember which one. Maybe it was the trucks, or maybe it was Gateway with the super late models. And looking at the schedule moving forward next week, Xfinity cars, one of the most fun cars to run on iRacing. Legacy, Texas, super fun track. I've got some secrets up my sleeve there. So definitely looking forward to the rest of the season. And yeah, I'll be trophy hunting. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you guys again before the season's over.
Well, it'll be awesome to see you in the next 6-race stretch going to Homestead, Miami, and see if you can win a race here tonight, or rather in season number 5. But Garrett, of course, on behalf of our team here at Podium Esports, want to thank you so much for taking your time to talk with us on this second place finish. Congratulations, and we'll see you at Texas.
Thanks, guys.
It's Garrett Smithley in the 15 who gives the push to Schildhouse and gets second. A phenomenal effort for not only Schildhouse, Smithley, and then the third car in it as well. 2-time winner this season, Anthony Alfredo. He's caught up with Jacob Hitz on pit road.
Pretty good average finish at Daytona, all things considered. I believe that's a second place in total. The first place here for the Sunshine 300, now the third place here tonight. It's certainly not an easy third place finish. A lot of passing you had to do to get to this point.
Definitely. I think I might have possibly led the most laps tonight, which is pretty cool. It's really hard to do with this combo. If you're leading out of the backstretch chicane, you're likely not going to be leading when you get back to the line. But that's not really what I was going for. I just had a lot more pace than I expected. So it was a lot of fun racing at the front. And David Schildhouse and I'm sure he told you, we spent about 2 hours strategizing this race. Just over text, crunching numbers and figuring out exactly what the fuel burn was going to be and how close we could stretch it each run. So we executed that perfectly. Garrett was in on it with us. So the three of us came home 1, 2, 3. You can't ask for more than that. One of us had to win it and the other 2 of us had to be second and third. So we were excited about that. It was going to get dicey if there was one more lap probably because the group was catching us just because we were such a small pack, but we were able to execute successful, clean, fast laps throughout that race on every run and stick together, really. We were spread out at the start because I was up there leading. I think Garrett was a few spots back and David had got spun, but we linked back up at that halfway break and just came back through the field. Our strategy kind of leapfrogged everybody and we held on to it to the end, so that was pretty neat.
Now second in points going into the cutoff race next week at Legacy, Texas with the Xfinity cars, 19 points above the cut line. Does the good finish tonight help take the edge off going into next week's race, or is that pressure still there knowing that there's still the possibility that you could wind up on the outside looking in?
Yeah, next week could be chaotic, but it is a car and track combo that I have a lot of confidence in myself in. I think that one plays into my favor way more than this. So the fact that I had a shot to win this one gives me a lot more confidence for that one and actually takes a little bit of pressure off, as you mentioned. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be interesting. There's been a lot of races like those that I've went out and dominated and always been just fell short with either a late caution or some sort of mix up in the strategy or just flat out getting wrecked. So hopefully I do my part to execute and the rest is just some good fortune and circumstances to put me in position, and I'll do my part to execute.
Well, congratulations on the top 3 finish tonight, the second place in the points, and go get them at Texas. We'll see you next week.
I will. Thank you very much.
Anthony Alfredo, your third place finisher tonight from the Daytona Road Course. Blake.
Thank you very much, Jacob, and of course all 3 of our drivers for taking the time to talk to us there and setting up, I think, what's going to be an absolutely incredible race next week at Legacy, Texas. Eric, I know we've set this up to be very quick. You only get 2 races to execute, and for those drivers that are below the cut line, I mean, you get next week or that's it. You're out of the running for the championship.
Yeah, so many playoff drivers had issues tonight, some more so than others. You look at guys like George Balfens Jr. and Matt Stolnick below the cut line. Going to need a great showing at Texas next week. I'm really excited as a local Texas fan who grew up going to what they call Legacy Texas in iRacing. I'm really excited to see how these drivers tackle the high banks and the high speeds out west. Going to be a great time, but tonight lived up to the hype. We saw some strategy last week in the regular season finale, kind of individual strategy at the end of that Michigan race. This week it was team strategy, official or unofficial. Really cool to see David Schildhouse play it right, get the push when he needed it most. Cool to see that entire trio of Schildhouse, Smithley, and Alfredo we just interviewed. So excited and have their hard work pay off in the way that it did. I had a great time. It was great to host this event on my channel here on YouTube. I know the chat had a great time. We had some special surprise guests, the official NASCAR account was in there. We had some other YouTubers like Raw Gator stop by, chiming in, interacting and engaging throughout the evening. So I had a blast. Sounds like the drivers did as well. And I hope you guys in the booth had a good time. Y'all had the best seat in the house.
We had a great time, Eric. And again, thank you so much for hopping on. We would have imagined that you've been doing this all season with how you handled the pre-race show and just being right into things. We really appreciate your help in making this all happen. And, man, I just can't wait to get going to next Monday night. Again, next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time will be the green flag. We invite you to, of course, come a little bit early as well with Eric Estep. The Out of the Group pre-race show will get rolling 7:30 Eastern next Monday night before we get going and let these guys loose to see who will be the 10 drivers that still have a chance to compete for the championship here in Season 5 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. So, for our entire broadcast crew, for Ford Martin and Paul Sutton of Monday Night Racing, Josh Mendoza in Race Control, Gary Sexton and John Theodore at Podium Esports, for our camera builder, Dougie Beard, our overlay builder, Michael Hall, Cameron Alvernon on our social medias tonight, and for tonight's broadcast crew, Eric Estep, our pre-race host, producer Ryan Bauer, my colleagues in the broadcast booth, Kenneth Bueno, Jacob Hitsdown on pit road. I am Blake McCandless saying so long from the World Center of Racing, where we bid you farewell and congratulations to tonight's winner, David Sodahouse.